This episode is sponsored by Office Dog Games. Hello and welcome to episode 59 of the Board Game Geek podcast, where we geek out about board games, the mechanisms behind them, and the people who create them. I'm your host, Candice Harris, and I am so happy to be here today with Maggie from ThinkerThemer, the themer of the two. How's it going today, Maggie?
It's going great. It's always such a delight to get to hang out with you. So this is I'm having my best time ever.
Oh, thank you. Likewise. Hopefully I don't keep you on here talking about games for 3 hours though.
It's no problem. I can talk about games all day. So that's no issue.
Awesome. Well, what's new? I know you and Amy stay super busy all year round, and you were just in Tokyo, right? For Tokyo Game Market?
Yeah, we went to Japan and got to spend a bit of time in Tokyo Game Market, which we love whenever we can sort of make that happen. So that was really awesome. Came back with a great ton of a lot of small trick-taking games and card games, which is
cool.
What they're best at. So yeah, that was great. And obviously now during the holiday season, got to sort of travel around Australia a bit, see some family. It's always very sunny in summer in Australia, so it's more of a sweaty type Christmas and holiday break.
Wow, that's cool. Yeah, I've been in LA for the holidays, and it's such a quiet time because a lot of people leave to go visit family, and there's so many transplants that live in LA that when this week between Christmas and New Year's is so chill.
That can be nice.
Traffic is very minimal. Yeah, it's really, really nice. Serene. So I've been trying to decompress a little. The second half of the year was just, insane since Gen Con, it just back-to-back excitement, fun conventions, traveling, but it does get exhausting here and there.
Of course. No, it's good. It's good also because it's a time where a lot of people are off work as well. So you don't have to worry about, the onslaught of emails, and I'm going to have to be checking what's happening, because a lot of the work that I do is remote. So I'm used to always not physically necessarily being in an office, but always having to check. And so it's so nice to then have
quiet.
Quiet.
Yeah.
I can look at games. I can see what's happening. I can play stuff that I haven't played in a while.
Yeah.
Learn, go through rule books. And be
And I know you're a solo gamer too. So
yes. Yeah.
So, me too. But I don't know if I play solo quite as much as you, but I do enjoy it a lot. I like that peaceful time of solving something on my own, and yeah.
I didn't get to play solo as much actually this year, just because it was so busy with a lot of games that we ended up having to obviously play together.
Gotcha.
And so I did manage to, wherever possible, if something has a solo mode, I'd like to make sure to try it. So if we're doing a review, I can speak to the solo mode. I also didn't feel they actually. Well, when we get into a list, I'll mention the ones that I'm ooh, this is also really excellent solo, or I am looking forward to playing it solo, even if I haven't yet.
Cool. Yeah, I totally feel you there. And when I was doing more writing in BGG News, I would try to do the same as often as I could. Try that solo mode too, try it at all player counts when possible. But sometimes you don't have the time to do it all up front, But anyways, after Gen Con, I had Amy on for episode 49. And at that point, we already made plans to do this end of 2024. Technically, this is going to release at the beginning of 2025. But, we're going to talk about some of our favorite games that we played in 2024. Some of these are going to be new releases, games that came out in 2024. But we'll also highlight a few games we might have played for the first time this year that did not come out in 2024.
Always happens. You always have that opportunity to be oh, I actually have never had a chance to play this. What's this like? And it's it's one of those gems, or this is a classic for a reason.
Yes.
Or, yeah.
Yes. And it really is like, I like going back and playing old games and kind of discovering old gems. And there's some that I'll talk about that aren't that old, but both of these lists were hard to make. But all right, before we get into our favorite games of 2024, I'd love to hear what you've been playing lately, Maggie. So let's jump into fresh plays.
So in terms of things that I have been playing recently, as I mentioned, we've been sort of visiting family recently for the holiday season, and actually got to play Slay the Spire. So my brother-in-law he had purchased Slay the Spire. And that was one game that I was like, I haven't had a chance to play it. And I was, very tormented about, will it make it into my top of the year list? And it was just one of those, I just never got a chance. And so he had it in shrink, and I got to sort of, I'm like, do you want to open? He's like, no, you can open. I'm like, I get to open it as well. This is amazing.
That's awesome.
And he's like, but if you open it, you have to learn it. I'm like, that's fine. So I actually got to play. I played it solo a little bit to kind of get the flow of it. And then we played a 4-player, one full act of it. And I love the video game. So it was one of those games that I was really anticipating, and I just never got around to it. And so I managed to play it. I actually really enjoyed it. I don't think it would have made it into my top 10.
Okay.
Actually, I know it wouldn't have made it into my top 10, but it would have been an honorable mention because they did such a great job translating it. And it's sort of like it's cooperative, and you're kind of dungeon. I think the term is technically dungeon crawling. Mm-hmm. Is it dungeon crawling? You're kind of going through the different map and fighting different bosses until you get to the final boss.
Yeah.
And it's just, and it's sort of like a deck building game that is card based, even in the video game. So it was a weird thing that it's like this started as a card game on video game, and then turned into an actual
deck building game. Yeah.
So it lent itself pretty well, but they did a great job of creating that co-op version.
And is it campaign? Or is it just scenario
you work your way through different acts. So you have act 1, 2, and 3, and obviously they get increasingly more difficult, and there's different monsters and different kind of cards that get added to each act. And then there's actually locked content. So there's an act 4 that you can't actually open until you've made your way through. So it's sort of campaign I guess in that way, but it's obviously replayable because a lot of it is just the same. You get to there's all these different asymmetric characters as well that play fairly differently in terms of their abilities and stuff. So even in the video game, you usually would just play as one character, and then when you finish, you go back and go, let me try out with this character. So there's a lot of game in it.
Cool. I've heard nothing but good things about it. I have not played it. I've dabbled in the, I bought the app on my iPad a couple years ago, or maybe a year ago. I don't remember, but I played it a bit and I was like, oh, this is cool. But I'm usually not a big app and or video game person. So I kind of just fell off of it, but I liked it. And everybody I know who's played the board game version now is really speaking highly of it. So I'll have to try it at some point, because I do I love deck building. I love kind of dungeon crawler. I like asymmetric characters and all that. Yeah. So I suspect I will dig it.
Nice.
Cool.
You should. Yeah. And it plays solo. So the solo is pretty good as well. So
cool. Awesome. That is Slay the Spire. So I debated for a bit about which games I wanted to talk about today. And one of them, I've only gotten the opportunity to play just once, but it was enough to make me thirsty. This is a game called Gosu X. And it is a reimplementation of a game from 2010 that was called Gosu. It was this card game that was sort of a hybrid of Race for the Galaxy and Magic the Gathering. There were no designers listed, but the Gosu X is published by Sorry We Are French, one of my favorite publishing company names. This game came out in 2023, and it's a 2-player card combo game. And the thing I love about it off the bat is you have in the base game 8 different factions that are decks of cards, and you're going to, at the start of the game, draft those factions so each player has 3. Like, I get one, you pick 2, I pick 2, you get 1. The 2 that aren't picked, we then flip over their faction tiles, and they are a set of rules that apply to the whole game. So I was like, that is very inventive, that like whatever factions are left, that's going to impact everybody for the game. Yeah. Beyond that, you're kind of building a 3x5 grid where you're playing cards and you're triggering the effects. And I guess I should say, after you draft your 3 factions, you make a deck. You shuffle all 3 factions' decks together, and that's your deck of cards for the game. And it kind of, I don't know if you played a couple of years ago, Rift Force from Capstone.
No, I haven't. Yeah,
okay,
no, I haven't
that was a very good 2-player game too. But this has kind of a similar thing where you're mixing different combinations of factions.
Right. Yeah.
And each of them have their own like play style. So you're going to be playing cards into a grid, a 3x5. And as you play a card, you trigger its effect. There are 3 different levels of cards in your deck for each faction. There's level 1, level 2, and level 3. And as you play cards into your tableau, only level 1 cards can be on the bottom row. So you could have a max of 5 level 1 cards. In order to play a level 2 card, you have to have at least 1 level 1 card there, because then you have to like play it on top of it.
Right.
And then like once you have a level 2, you can play a level 3 on top of that. But so you need to kind of like build out the 1s to build up to the 2s to the 3s.
Yeah, makes sense.
And each card, beyond having an effect and sometimes keywords that trigger stuff, has a strength. So the game is played over a max of 3 rounds. And the other thing I like about it is multiple ways to win, multiple victory conditions. So one of the ways that I'm assuming is most common is to win 2 supremacy tokens. Okay. So in order to win 2 supremacy tokens, at some point the round is going to end, and we're going to compare the strengths of our tableaus, our armies and characters on the table. And whoever has the highest strength is going to win a supremacy token. Then both players are going to get rid of half the cards in their tableau, and then you play a second round. So it goes a max of 3 rounds, because after 3 rounds, all 3 of those supremacy tokens are going to be gone. And it's like, if you get 2 first, you just win the game. But it's kind of cool because you have these activation tokens at the beginning. You have 2 activation tokens, and when you play a card, most of the cards that you're playing, like you'll trigger the effect immediately, but then later you can put an activation token on it to do it again. And it's almost like, think of it like a worker placement thing, but it's private. And there are ways to unlock more activation tokens. So another way you could win is by going to unlock your 5th activation token. That's an auto victory. Okay. And the last way you win, which seems like it'll be tough, is if you fill up your whole tableau with 15 cards, you will automatically win. So I'm really excited to explore that. But I really find it interesting also the way the round ends, because at some point, I don't think you draw automatically in this game. I'm trying to remember. I don't think you draw automatically. Like, I think you need to play the activation tokens to draw more cards and such. So you're going to kind of stall out resource-wise at some point. But when you pass, like, let's say I pass on my turn. You get 3 more turns, Maggie, to do whatever you want. You get 3 more actions. And after that, that's when we, like, see who has the highest strength in battle. And so I think, like, the timing of that is very interesting, because it like gives your opponent time to maybe throw down some cards to like win that war, but maybe you're doing it to save cards to do something cooler next turn. Anyway, I already bought the 2 expansion factions for this, and I'm dying to play it more. It's on Board Game Arena also, so I've been trying to like hit people up and be like, hey, you want to play this? You want to play this?
Nice.
Yeah, but it just seems cool. And I love 2-player kind of card dueling games like this. And I love the fact that you're drafting these combinations of factions that play, like there's so much to explore in terms of like which factions go well together. And when you add the 2 expansion factions, now you have 10. So the first part of the draft is each player is going to pick one to remove from the game. Then you do the normal 8 draft, 3 and 3, and then 2 will be like global rules for the whole game. So
wow.
Yeah.
That's cool. That sounds cool. It sounds like they've done quite a lot in terms of being very efficient with how, the use of the factions and then how that sets the game state. And that's interesting.
It's really cool. And like I said, it's based on an older game from 2010. Okay. And I've never played that, don't know much about that one. But the other thing I'll just highlight is that this game has really nice components. Like when you open the box, the insert, instead of just like plastic, it's like got this velvet texture on it. Premium. And they have, premium. There's a little board for you to put your cards out, that like your faction tiles and stuff like that. There's the wooden pieces are really nice. They give you this cloth bag. I was like, dang, okay.
That's pretty good.
Okay, sorry we are French.
Yeah. It really does add to the experience of, when you're playing a game, particularly if it's something that is, mainly just like card-based. Having those couple of elements just kind of gets you in that, ooh, this is nice. I find it, when games sort of do that, it makes it immediately more immersive for me, because I'm like, oh, this is nice. I start getting into the feel.
You're sucked in a little bit.
Nice.
Yep. So that is Gosu X. I know you dig some 2-player card games, so
this is very it's a good segue into my second game. Are we doing more games? Should we talk about more games?
Yes.
Yeah. All right. So my second game is one that, again, this is actually from 2023. It's mostly a 2-player card game, but it's actually Disney's Lorcana, which I didn't get a chance to play. I hadn't had a chance to play, and I've always been like, I don't like confrontation, like head-to-head sort of type games. I should say the designers are David Iezzi, Ryan Miller, and Steve Warner. This was originally obviously launched in 2023, but there's, it's a trading card game, collectible card game. So there's constantly new sets being released. And I imagine there's going to be obviously different designers for all those different bits in terms of, because I know there's also the game itself is meant to play mainly 2-player because it's a head-to-head sort of card game. Mm-hmm. But it says 2 to 6 because you actually can play it sort of like, I think what I understand is like Magic the Gathering type. Is it the Commander?
We're multiplayer format.
Correct. So cool. It just becomes a race to 20 lore, which is their sort of point. Their point sort of counter. But they also did release a solo expansion. So there is a way that you can even play it solo.
Oh.
I think, what's the solo called? Illumineer's Quest, Deep Trouble. So it's like you're kind of playing against Ursula. And it's apparently quite difficult. So it's an interesting, you can play actually 1 to 2. So then you can even play like co-op as 2 players against the Ursula bot. So this was, and the only reason why I was like, okay, again, my brother-in-law and his partner are super into it, and they kind of got into it just a little bit after we got into, like Amy and I got into Pokemon, the trading card game, like really heavily. Like, again, from me not liking any sort of head-to-head kind
card
of
games,
we sort of went so deep. And we even did a video of like, like this has been like our secret, like our guilty pleasure secret that we kind of kept hidden. And even in like when we were in cons and stuff, we would sort of like sneak away to just go look at the Pokemon cards. We didn't actually get to play, but it's like we'd go and look at the Pokemon cards and be like, is there anything that we can add to our decks? So I really connected with that game, like that one. Yeah. And so I was like, well, let me try Lorcana now because, I'm with my in-laws and they love this game and they're just and they're like, we'll teach you. And so I got to play it and I was surprised at, I like that, what you're doing is you're challenging each other. So it's not technically violent, even though, and what you're collecting, the points are actually lore. And your points are actually gained through questing. So it's actually when you're versing, you have the option of either kind of attacking or challenging, which is then reducing the other people's ability to have characters or things on the board, which all that's really doing is reducing their ability to then collect those questing lore points. So, but if you're doing that, then you're not collecting lore yourself.
Right,
so it's
right,
like
the trade-off.
So I like that. Yeah, that the winning condition, and obviously, like, you know, any trading card game, there's all sorts of ways of attacking or like approaching, I should say, your deck. And so they have all these different colors. So like their suits, the different colors, they all do something different. So some of them are more about like using artifacts, and some of them are more about like just, you know, straight up challenging and trying to like reduce the other person's ability to get things going on. And then others are just about questing and like sort of speeding to get those. So again, it was one of those, like, as I was playing, I was like, I can see there's so much in this game, and it's particularly if you connect with that IP, with the Disney IP. There's obviously so many beautiful cards. Exactly, yeah. It's like, oh, have you heard of this Disney thing? I don't know. It's just really little known. So people should know about it. So yeah, and that was the thing. Like, as you know, people are kind of opening packs and stuff. There's so many beautiful cards, and so I can see the appeal, and I enjoyed the gameplay. But it was now that I've gone through the Pokemon thing, I'm like, I know how deep this hole can be, and even just as a player. So obviously, you know, there's the people that just collect, but even as a player, it's just so hard to stay on top of, because there's always new sets being released, and it's not as often like Lorcana. I think there's maybe 2 sets every year at the moment, whereas like Pokemon's every couple of months there's a new Pokemon set that then disrupts how decks play, and it's like meta, you can't, the meta. So it's like you can't stay on top of it. Like you just have to do it full time, and even then, so it's so overwhelming. But I really enjoyed my time with it, and I really can appreciate that. Yeah, if that's your IP, I still find I connected more with Pokemon, even though I didn't grow up with them. I just love, I don't know.
Fair. I mean, that TCG is like very, very popular. I've never played the Pokemon game. I haven't played Lorcana either, and I'm not like a huge Disney person. Like I like going to Disney World and everything, but you're speaking to the right person here. You're in a safe place, Maggie, because I have the same issue between Flesh and Blood, Keyforge, and for what I hear, like, again, I'm not trying to get you into another game, but like from like Lorcana sounds like it has a similar thing that Keyforge does, where your goal is to collect resources so that you can forge keys. Yes, you're going to need to do some fighting, but that's not the end all be all. And like there's a lot more strategy to it. And I remember someone saying that like Lorcana had some similarities, but you're right, like I can't go down the rabbit hole with another TCG.
No, I'm immune now. I feel like I've done it, and I'm like, no, I know where this path goes. I've learned my lessons. I can appreciate it, and I can like cheerleader you from the sidelines going, yeah, that is great. You're doing great, sweetie. But no, I cannot go down any of these paths again.
You're strong. No. I'm trying to, because like it happened with Flesh and Blood, and then I was like, oh, I have other games to play and a life to live and bills to pay.
It. Like they take over your life.
They do.
It's like, I find that I start, like I go to sleep and I dream of card combos. And I'm like, no, this is not how I want to spend my mental time.
Right.
I wanted to just have it space and me enjoy it, and then but it can be so consuming.
Really
can.
And it's
but
like,
it was a fun time.
They're so good. That's the challenge. They're so good, but it's like, if I was gonna get rid of every game and just play Keyforge or just play Flesh and Blood, I would be like really happy, but I would miss everything else.
My other thing with this experience is obviously with the Disney Lorcana decks, like you have the beginner decks, and there's all sorts of different decks, like pre-made decks that you can then just start with that and play. Obviously, the most fun element of this is when you're constructing your deck and you're going, oh, this strategy or that strategy, or looking at the meta deck list, like all these super powerful decks, and going, oh, I want to construct that and I want to see how it plays. But my first game of it was playing with a deck that was half constructed by my brother-in-law. So it's like one that they had kind of played with the night before.
Tried to build.
And so it was a little bit kind of rickety. It was a bit of a Frankenstein kind of deck. I'm like, what is going? So I would probably recommend starting with a pre-made deck, not something that's just been sort of repair parts. And it's like, oh yeah, kind of started deconstructing it before you grabbed it. And like, oh no, it doesn't even have the things that you need to play it. And I still had a good time.
Maggie.
So
good luck.
Yeah.
That's awesome. So do you typically like to, like even with Pokemon, do you like to kind of get familiar with like a pre-constructed deck and then go in and like customize? Or do you like to go out there, find a deck list that sounds cool, try it out, and then maybe tweak it?
Well, I think I started with the pre-constructed decks because that gives you a bit of a better idea of the flow or how things can work, the different avenues that you can use. But then I think for me, the most fun is getting to like, because as you play, you're like, oh, I wish I'd had more of this element or that element, or been able to do this particular thing more often. And so you start kind of swapping cards. And the other thing with Disney's Lorcana, which was really interesting, is they don't have, it's like minimum 60 cards, but you can have more. So the decks don't all have to be the same size, which I think is unusual, because usually it's like, no, to like play
45 cards or whatever.
Or 60 cards or whatever. But this is just like at least 60 cards, but you can have more. And obviously then you come into this
odds
like watering the deck.
Yeah.
So I actually really enjoy that. And then also seeing how clever some people, like building a deck around one card and one card's ability, like it's because it feels so creative as well. And it's,
you're
it's
making me want to try it.
No, don't do it. This was funny because it's like when we first started getting into Pokemon, we went to a trading card convention just to like check it out. And we were like, here, like it's all just kind of trading cards. And someone recognized us from the channel. They're like, you're ThinkerThemer, blah, blah. And we're like, oh, well, as you know, we're coming over from the board gaming world. What would be your tips for getting into trading card? And he's like, don't do it. Just get out while you can. It's like, run, because it is so just all consuming. And it's also so expensive. It adds up so quickly. And then you're always chasing, okay, I need that card. Even if you're buying it in the secondhand market, like some of them are really expensive, and it's like,
I don't even want to think about the amount of money I've spent on Flesh and Blood and Keyforge cards. My gosh. But I did, when I was at Essen, I met a guy named Alex, and I'm gonna oh my gosh, I don't think I remember, maybe was it Black Knight Games? He works for like a distribution company in Europe and they do like a bunch of card games, like getting them to retailers and everything.
Oh yeah.
I think that's what it was. I can't remember the name, but this awesome guy, Alex, I met at a booth party, and he's like, stop by our booth, at some point. Yeah. So Matt and I went over there, and he hooked us up with a bag of like goodies. And I'm pretty sure, I think there Lorcana in there. I know there was Altered, which I still haven't tried yet.
Yeah, I haven't played that. Yeah.
Yeah, but I think there might have been some Lorcana. Like I'm curious to try it, but I won't get invested.
Yeah, I think a big part of it is the IP. So if you resonate with the IP, then
which I don't.
So I was the same. It's like I've grown up with Disney, but it's not really ever been a thing so I think it's like, I would appreciate it as I'm playing it, but I'm not like, I need more of these. I actually connected more with Pokemon. But anyways, so that is Disney Lorcana.
Lorcana. Okay. And one last question about Lorcana.
Yeah.
Are you getting to be a character in it?
Well, you're playing different characters, which is the other thing that is a bit strange, because it's like you can have obviously like up to 4 cards of the same, 4 copies of the same card. Okay. So it can feel a bit weird to be like, I'm playing 4 Elsas, and it's like, well, why would you have multiple of the same? Whereas
she's everywhere.
Yeah. So, and I think they have tried. I do love the artwork. I believe it's all original artwork. It's not like clips from the movies or anything like that. It's all original
that's
artwork.
Cool.
I believe, don't quote me on this.
Okay.
Happy to be fact checked on this. But yeah, I like that they have kind of tried to make links between obviously the characters or what's happening, and then the action that card
That's
has, or
cool.
the power
That's
ability.
cool. So it's a little thematic.
Yeah, same with the Pokemon one. Is like it makes more sense because you can have multiple Pokemon of the same type. Like there's like a Pokemon is like a species almost. So it's fine to have 2 or 3 Pikachus or whatever. So
well, I'm still planning to come to Dice Tower West. So I'd love to play and not get hooked. But I'd like to play Pokemon, so I can.
I think if you're already onto Flesh and Blood and Keyforge, it's easier to then resist because you're like, no, okay, I'm getting this sort of.
Wait, Maggie, you know me though. Easier to resist.
That's true. Nothing's easy to resist. Here you will go head first. Yeah.
Okay, well, moving on from, and that's why I like games like Gosu X, because I'm like, all right, I'm getting my card game feel, but I'm not spending more and more money.
It's a finite experience.
Yes, love it. Okay, cool. The next game I'll talk about is kind of a twofer. I'm not like a huge party game person. Like, I appreciate good party games and they're fun, but I'm not that person who it's like, oh, it's a convention and it's 8 p.m., so we better start playing party games,
Yeah.
That's not my MO. But I recently got the opportunity to play a couple that I really like. And it's like now I'm bringing them kind of wherever I go just in case I can sneak it in. And, they're always great because you can play with lots of people.
Yeah.
So I'm just going to mention 2. One is called I'm Kind of a Big Dill. Like a dill pickle. Yes, this is a dill pickle themed party game. This one I did get a copy from the publisher / one of the designers, Grant Lyon, who I'm friends with. So Grant designed it with Adam Bain, and this is a 2024 release from Left Justified Studio. Plays with 2 to 10 players. And the idea is everybody gets these little like dry erase pickle boards. And one of the very minor but cute things is there are some like pickle characters on the bottom of all the pickle boards, and they're all different kind of themed pickles. So it's cute. But on your pickle, you have a scale. Well, you have a place where you can keep score, and then you have a scale from -3 to +3. So -3, -2, -1, 0, 1, 2, 3. And what's going to happen is on your turn, you're going to draw. It's a competitive game too, but you're going to draw 2 cards and choose one of them. And it'll be a topic. Like one of my favorites from my first game of this was describe your ability to DJ on a road trip.
Okay.
So 0 would be like how you really are. And then the plus to -3 is you would need to exaggerate a bit.
Okay.
And so after you pick your card, then you're going to draw one of these random tokens that's going to be your like exaggeration modifier. So you're the only one that's going to see it. So maybe it's like I drew +3. So then I'm going to start telling you and everybody playing about my ability to DJ on
your
road
inflated
trips.
Ability. Yeah.
I could have 5 different types of people in a minivan, and I could just play the right song, and they'll all be having tears of joy at the same time. Like you're exaggerating, or hey, I put something on and somebody just jumped out of the car. I don't know. They just hated the music,
Yeah.
But the scoring is like Dixit. So you don't want everyone to guess exactly what your exaggeration level is. You want at least one person, not everyone. And if that happens, you get 2 points. And anybody who got it exactly right gets 2 points. And anybody who is one off on either side gets 1 point.
Okay.
But then if everybody gets it right, you get no points.
Yeah,
so you're
too
like,
obvious.
Yeah. And the other thing I like about it is that you get an opportunity to then ask the person, like anybody can ask a question. Like if I gave you my description, you could be like, well, what would the people in the car do if you did, put on blah, 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 Yeah. And so you're kind of like, it's a little like almost role playing or something.
Okay.
Cause you're going along with this like funny story. So it's cool. It's cool. And it's like, it seems like all the games I've played have been relatively close in score.
Okay.
And so, and I like that it plays with 10 players.
Yeah, that's always really handy because often you end up having a really big group and everyone's like looking at each other like, we've got a bit of time. What should we? Yeah, I love Grant. So, and I haven't had a chance to play it. So I'm looking forward to. I'm hoping that he'll be at Dice Tower West, and then hopefully, we'll get a chance to have a game.
Yeah.
Or obviously, like anyone else will have a copy. I'm sure there's copies as well in the library. So
I'm sure you'll get to play it. And then the other one I'll mention that I just randomly bought is a game called That Escalated Quickly. This is a game that's a re-implementation of a game called Top 10 that was released in France like a year or two ago. And I played Top 10 because Eric Martin had an advanced copy of it, and like he or the publishing company translated the cards to English or enough for us to play with it. And I just loved it because it's cooperative and it feels like Wavelength meets The Mind if you've played either or both of those. So in this one, it is cooperative. You have a deck of cards numbered 1 through 10, and each round, you shuffle the deck, everybody gets a card. Then there's a prompt. Maggie, you're the active player, and maybe you draw a card that says, I'm skydiving from a plane, and I pull on my parachute, and what came out? From 0 being least helpful to 10 being most helpful. And so like if you have like a 3, you make it, you say something, then we go to the next player, maybe they have 10, so they're going to hopefully exaggerate, and you just go around. Then if it's your turn, you have to then have people reveal their cards in ascending order. So you have to be hearing the levels of what people's answers are, and then mind it up by saying like, okay, you flip yours. So I'm glad I finally realized, because I was like, I knew someone had picked it up and was making an English version, and it was Exploding Kittens, and it came out, but not many people seem to know about it yet. But I really, really like it.
Nice. That sounds interesting. Yeah, intriguing.
Cool. So I'm kind of a Big Dill, and That Escalated Quickly. Now, a word from our sponsor. And with the new year comes new releases. Following the amazing PAX Unplugged pre-release last month, right out of the world of The Lord of the Rings comes the Fellowship of the Ring trick-taking game by Office Dog Games, launching worldwide in only 2 weeks on January 17th. In the game, 1 to 4 players work together chapter by chapter following the first book in Tolkien's iconic trilogy to complete objectives and overcome the forces of Sauron. Pick up your copy at your favorite local game store to receive an exclusive additional chapter and enjoy the gifts Galadriel bestows upon the Fellowship during their rest in Lothlorien. You can find participating stores on hobbynext.com. To learn more, visit OfficeDogGames.com or follow their socials at OfficeDogGames. Maggie, I know you and Amy already put out videos on some of your top games of the year, and I did watch a little bit of the big box one, so I might know some things, but I always like to think about, like, there are a lot of games that didn't come out in 2024 or any given year that you got to play for the first time and like it really made an impact. So I have 6 that I want to mention, or I can say 5.5. You got 5?
I got 5, yeah.
Okay. All right. Well, let's start with that. So these will be our favorite games played in 2024 that weren't released in 2024.
Yeah. Now, I will preface this by saying I actually didn't get to play that many games that are before 2024. One, because we have a lot of, the current games that we need to kind of want to get through so that we can kind of check, also have lists like, okay, well, where are our top for the year?
Right.
And there's finite time and there's a lot of games.
Yes.
Also, because we often play a lot of prototypes of games that are going to be released in future years. So I played a lot of stuff that's coming out in 2025, but that doesn't count for this. So I'd say my number 5, it's an older game. So it's Bottle Imp, which was a re-implementation of The Bottle Imp, which is a trick-taking game from 1996. But there was a new version of it, which is what prompted me to play it, even though I'd never played the original. The gameplay, I believe, is pretty much the same. The only thing is they've actually now introduced expand like a version so you can expand
play
it
with more
beyond,
players,
5 to 6 players, so, and also 2 players, I think, because I don't know if originally you could play with 2 players. So this is a game by Gunter Cornett, and people, whenever we would do our trick-taking lists of like thematic trick-taking, people are like, but what about Bottle Imp? What about? And Amy had played it. Amy had played a version of it. The original version. But I had never played it until Gen Con, actually, was the first time. This last Gen Con, I got to play. I'm like, actually, this is really fun. Like, I really enjoyed it. And then by understanding the actual story of the Bottle Imp, I'm like, this is actually highly thematic. Yes, I agree. That should be in the list. It will probably
Maggie
be in the list going forward. Yeah, it's a Themer approved thematic trick-taking game. Because all you're doing is like the whole story of the Bottle Imp is like this sort of bottle where the glass was forged in hell. And so it's like, there's an imp inside that will grant you wishes, so kind of like a genie in a bottle type thing. But the downside of it, so it'll grant you anything that you want. The only string attached is that if you die being the owner of the bottle, you're going to go to hell. And so you want to get rid of, the only way to get rid of the bottle is for someone else to purchase it from you. And it can only be purchased for less than what you bought it. So you can't sell it for the same price that you bought it, or this isn't the story, or it'll just come back to you. And so in the trick-taking game, what you're trying to do is, as you're playing, the bottle will have a price. And as you're playing, if you play cards that are below that price, it automatically will shift ownership. So the bottle shifts ownership to the person who played that card. That is just like and so there's this balance of you want to be winning tricks along the way, because there's going to be points in those tricks, but you don't want to be the person who wins the bottle
stuck with
last.
The bottle.
Stuck with the bottle, because then your points are you're going to have negative points essentially from so very simple, but it was so satisfying, and the new production is just gorgeous. So it's actually got art by Maxime Morin. I think that's how you pronounce it. But and it's got this sort of foil art. It's just gorgeous production. And the little bottle is like a little glass bottle that is just so gorgeous. And it's just simple, but like great production.
I actually have the original version, and I have the new version. I haven't cracked into the new version yet. I remember liking it a lot. One of the things I thought was really cool about the old version was that if you lay all the cards out, like they tell a story, like the art.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah. So I've been like, I think I'm going to hold on to both for now.
Yeah. That sounds good.
But from what I've seen of the new one, it does look really, really nice.
It's gorgeous. Yeah. The art and the foil on the cards is just beautiful. Yeah. And the bottle itself. I love the bottle itself. Yeah.
I wonder how the bottle compares to the original.
Well, the original bottle, I think it was just like I think it was wood, like wooden. A big black bottle. So it wasn't really all that. It was like, something physical. But this one is actually gorgeous and translucent sort of. Ooh. It's probably acrylic. It's not actually glass, but it's like, it's got that translucent.
It looks good. Yeah. Cool. All right. Bottle Imp. Okay. So I have 6. So, or I'll say 5.5. So
let's get cracking.
The one that I have for number 6 is Attack on Titan, the deck building game. Came out in 2016. It's designed by Matt Havre, who I think did a lot of some of the like DC deck building games, which I had never played. It's from Cryptozoic Entertainment. Plays with 1 to 5 players, and it's a cooperative deck building game that's kind of a tower defense style game, and it's based on Attack on Titan, the manga series, and anime. Yeah. And I got heavily into that anime this year, and when I picked up this game, it is surprisingly good, like very thematic, very challenging, and I haven't played it a ton, but it's on my shelf and I want to play it more. And it just like, if you like cooperative deck builders that are challenging and thematic, this does a great job. Nice. So that's Attack on Titan deck building game. Had to mention that one.
We don't really co-op that much. We keep saying that, like we're not really a co-op household. Yeah. But we often end up finding, the exceptions to the rules, like, but this one or this other one or this one got through, and we really enjoyed it. Yeah. But tower defense, I know, but I know tower defense is one like genre that I don't tend to resonate as such. Even though my first solo game ever that I played was Castle Panic, which is quite literally a castle, tower defense. And I remember going, because I was just so taken by this concept of I can play a game by myself. This was like obviously years and years ago. But then obviously as you get exposed to more things, like, oh, okay. But of all the things, that genre is like,
This one I would say is not like heavy on the tower defense side. Like basically you have cards that are like forming the walls. I don't know if you're familiar with Attack on Titan or not.
No, I haven't. But, I've never followed the manga. Yeah.
These Titans start spawning on different spots. And unlike a lot of deck builders, there's an element of your character moving around to attack them, but also moving to different spaces to buy certain cards. Okay. It's really kind of unique, but very thematic and tough.
Nice.
Like really, really tough. But I really liked it. All right, what's your next game?
Okay, my next game is a game that, I only just recently got to play. Well, it's actually from 2023, so it's not that old. It's Life of Amazonia, which is it's by Jamie Bloom, and the publisher is Bad Comet. Now, this is a bag builder where you are, it's sort of nature themed. So you're in the Amazons and you've got all these different animals, and you're creating the ecosystem to bring these animals to, and all the animals will have different scoring conditions, kind of like Cascadia style, where like this one scores by having these particular animals in there, or this one scores by being next to trees, or this one scores. So you're both creating the ecosystem by tile laying. Everyone has their own little tile laying sort of scenario, and then also purchasing or attracting these animals by paying like the fruit cost. But the whole thing is, you start with some very basic, like water, grass, and like fruits and coin in your bag. And then every time that you're playing, you're using whatever leftover money you have to get more powerful chips, or start getting rid of chips, so that then as you're kind of putting them into your bag, and the bag, the way it kind of works is, it's quite nice. Like it's just like a deck building. It's like it's got that same obviously satisfying thing of like, I'm gonna power up this, and then all of a sudden it's like, oh no, I don't have enough water. I need to buy more water, or like So I played it. So I think the one criticism I have about this game is it does play a bit too long for the type of game that it is, because it's a sort of like medium complexity that should really only take maybe like 45 minutes to an hour max. And we often found that it's like it just would blow out to like over 90 minutes to 2 hours, and it's like this doesn't need to be on the board for this long. But the gameplay itself is quite satisfying. So it's one of those that you could house rule, because you're playing until I think there's, depending on the player count, I think, or there's like 3 types of animals only left to draw from. And you can make it, you could obviously adjust that so that it just ends sooner. But so that's Life of Amazonia.
Cool. That sounds familiar, but I've not heard of it. And I love dag building, deck building and bag building.
Dag building.
So it sounds cool. It also sounds like it suffers from that similar thing with, like, I feel like Wonderland's War takes a long time to play, but I love it. But like you finish and you're like, wait, why did that take 3 hours?
It's like, why am I older now? I have to, like, I've got like, but like the thing I say for Wonderland's War, because that's another game that I love. It's got so many more layers to it, because it's like, you're also then doing the battles, and you're doing like, and so it feels like, okay, it does stay on the board a bit too long, but there's a lot going on. Whereas this one is more straightforward. So it's like, this really doesn't need to, it can just, you can cut the experience sooner.
Cool. All right. The next one on my list is Tyrants of the Underdark. Speaking of deck building, this is a game that was originally released in 2016. I've talked about it before on this podcast. I have the 2021 edition, and I think I've had it since it came out. And I just played it for the first time earlier this year. And I've since played it. It's a Gale Force 9 game designed by Peter Lee, Rodney Thompson, and Andrew Veen. They're the same designers behind Lords of Waterdeep, which is like, that classic worker placement game, very smooth. I've only played that once and I really liked it. But this is deck building and area control, and it's just so well designed and so smooth. Like the only thing I feel like the new version could use is like like better artwork and production. It seems a bit dated, and I don't know if they did that to kind of keep it similar to the old version in case people are mixing and matching components or something like that. But this is like a similar weight deck building game to Clank, but like what's happening on the board is way more interesting. It's got like it will have that kind of like diplomacy that's kind of added, almost like TI4, where it's like, oh no, we can't let Maggie take over this center space. She's going to be generating, 3 points every turn. And then while I bring that up and make the other people go take care of you, I'm on the side trying to score better areas of my own. And
that's very triggering for me. This happens a lot with games like this, like the whole queen making or anti-queen make. Is there a term for the anti, like the opposite of that, which is like, let's take someone down?
I don't know.
Know. Amy, poor thing. She always gets targeted, and she's like, I don't know why people always target me. I'm like, take that as a compliment.
They think you're
people
good.
See you as like you're the most
the threat.
You're the threat. Yeah. You're the threat player. But, like, but I haven't done anything. It's like, no, but you are likely going to be the one who wins it. So you're the thinker, so we know you're thinking about mitigate stuff, Amy. But this game, like, it just, like, the turns are fast. It plays in 90 minutes. There are a bunch of different decks that you kind of mix and match to make your game, but it's just like such a great design. And I ended up buying like a nice insert for it, and I think I've played it about 4 times like this year. Nice.
So I really liked it. That is Tyrants of the Underdark.
Nice. Well, my next game is a game from 2012, and it's Ginkgopolis by Xavier Georges.
Nice.
We'd never, so it's published, I believe, by Pearl Games. Now, we'd never had a chance to play this, but I think because it'd been out of print, I can never keep track of.
Yeah, it was
Amy's
super
the one that
out
keeps
of print.
track. Yeah. So Amy found it and got it secondhand, bought it secondhand, and we got to play it, and it was so clever. The gameplay of it is so clever. You have all these different tiles, and they all kind of, and so you're sort of like tile building in the middle, but then as you're activating, like depending on the tiles that you're playing, you're also activating different things. And it was just, it was fairly abstract. I remember sort of looking at the theme going, we're using the what is the name of the plant? Like Ginkgopolis, I can't remember.
Yeah, I don't know. It's very abstract.
To build a new society. It's like, no. But the gameplay was actually, even though like it's fairly abstract, it's just so satisfying.
Yeah.
So I was really, really impressed by that. And it actually hit the table quite a lot. And it's one of those games that is like, it's older, but it just has that really satisfying, it's like, this is good. Like, this is a solid design, and I can see why. I'm actually surprised it hasn't been picked up again, or maybe it has, or re-implemented.
It was. It was. So for a couple of years after I got into modern games, like, I heard about Ginkgopolis, and it was like on my Grail list. I was like, I got to get this game. And then somebody did a reprint of it like maybe 2 years ago. Mm-hmm. And then I got it, and I played it, and I loved it, and I haven't played it since, but I keep wanting to revisit it because I remember how it works, and it is very, very clever and cool.
Yeah.
So that's a good one. I'm glad you got to play it this year.
Yeah. Ginkgopolis.
Cool. Okay, the next game on my list, Unsettled.
It rings a bell. What does it ring a bell?
Okay. Unsettled is a cooperative survival adventure game where you basically, when you get the core box, which I received a review copy of this, you get the core box, and it has 2 planet boxes in there. And this is from Orange Nebula. It's designed by Tom Matson and Mark Needlinger. Came out in 2021. And it is like you're solving puzzles and exploring these different planets, and it's so good. Like
I have seen it. Yeah. I was like, have I played it? No, I haven't played it, but I think the reason might be
cooperative.
No, and space.
Yeah. It's not generic space though. It's like, it's really cool. Like, I've only played the first planet so far, but each planet has multiple scenarios. And I think I played 2 different scenarios of the same planet, and it was wildly different. And I then went and purchased more planets, which I haven't played yet. And then I got a couple more planets for Christmas.
Yeah,
but
wow.
I'm just like, Orange Nebula is like crushing it. Like they do not that many games, but they really, really do the production well. Every one of the planets, they made a well-produced video of that like sets the tone of like, where are we? And then also has strategy tips and how to set it up. So it's like you can watch a video and then jump into the planet and it's even more immersive. But yeah, I just really enjoyed the kind of puzzle of it. Like it's nice. Challenging. It's like it feels like you're like really exploring some weird planet and all the planets are so different. I haven't played them all yet, but like just reading the description and watching some of the videos of the planets, there's so much, and I really like that they like made this core game and then you can just like almost like a video game system, like put in a new game. I want a new experience, but like so I really, really liked Unsettled, and I'm glad I finally got to play it this year.
Oh, nice. Well, from Orange Nebula, you're saying like, they've got some really good hits. I'm really, really looking forward to Spiritfire. So that's that other title that's coming out, I believe, 2025. That's it's definitely going to be on my most anticipated list. That's one that we backed and we're like, come on.
Yeah. And I didn't even know about it till I started like getting into Unsettled and was like stalking their website. Yeah. But I was like, this sounds awesome.
It's one of those, when you have an idea and you're like, I wish a game existed that is like this theme. Yeah. And this is what you're doing. And then like the video of like, hey, we've been working on this. I'm like, that is it. But the danger with this is like then your expectations are so high that you often can kind of come into it with like unrealistic expectations of how a game could possibly deliver. But who knows?
I'm looking forward to hearing your thoughts on that. Yeah. Cool. All right. What's your next game?
So my next game is a little oink game from 2023. So again, not too old, but just not new. And this really surprised me. This is another Gen Con one. Because we don't tend to like dexterity games at all.
I know what you're going to say.
Do you? DroPolter?
Yeah.
That little poltergeist is so simple. Like you just have these like random little items that you're holding in your hand, you're shaking it up, and then a card is revealed to go, these are the items that need to be dropped from your hand by the one hand without looking. If you drop anything else, you're out of that sort of turn or that round. But if you do manage to drop the right items, then you reach out to grab the little poltergeist figurine. And then you get bells as points. And so it's like first to 5 bells, but the trick is you have to hold the bell in your fist with the other items, and the bell is the smallest item. And so if you drop it as you're trying to drop all the things in subsequent turns, you lose the point. Like that just goes away. Yep. And the funny thing about it is because they're bells, you hear it when people are like cling, like they drop them, and people go no, and you're like but it's just so simple and so effective. And I am not a fan of dexterity, and this one just got me. So yeah. I've
only played it once, and I won, and I was like losing for most of the game. Yeah. So it was kind of a miracle that I won. But now I can't play it ever again because I'm just
exactly. You have to leave on a high. Yeah.
Cool. DroPolter. Awesome. The next game on my list came out, I believe it was late 2023. So we're skirting the line here. And it's like really no surprise, but Dune Imperium Uprising. I'm a huge Dune Imperium fan. Yeah. Uprising is super wonderful, awesome. I love that it has the 3 versus 3 6-player experience too. Like that, and you would, if I don't know where you are on the Dune Imperium spectrum, but you would probably like the 3v3 because it feels very thematic.
Okay, yeah. I remember we did cover Dune Imperium, the original, like when it first sort of came out, and that was sort of around the time of like, the sort of, deck building,
worker placement.
Yeah. And then it was like that, and Lost Ruins of Arnak. And we ended up not connecting with Dune Imperium as much. And so it was one that we enjoyed it, we played it, but then we moved it on. And so I think that was partly what like made us not be like, And I don't know if it was more like the IP thing, or it wasn't really. I don't think it was the IP because it's fairly
just didn't resonate with you.
It just didn't. Yeah, the gameplay didn't resonate as much. Yeah, but I haven't played Uprising, so that's one that I need to check out.
Uprising is like I think I would definitely keep that if I could only keep one, but for now I'm going to keep everything. I want to keep everying, but yeah,
as long as there's storage space.
Exactly.
That's the limiting
factor. There
is
none. But like Dune Imperium,
I don't need a bed. I can sleep upright. I can just stand like a vampire in the corner,
or take all the heaviest games and throw a mattress on top of them.
Exactly. Yeah. Good foundation. Yeah.
But yeah, Dune Imperium. Like really, really, I remember my very first game of it. I was like, cool, I like this. But then it was like every game after that where it really clicked. And, I've said it before, but I had this 3-player game where my heart was racing when I'm playing this game. And I'm like, why do I feel this way? And I love that it makes me feel that way. Like the scoring is so tight. Yeah. So that one is a banger for me.
Nice.
But yeah, I could see. I know it's not everybody's jam. It's not everybody's jam.
Yeah.
All right, you got one more?
I do have one more, and this is a 2008 game by Uwe Rosenberg, which is probably one, if not my favorite designer, and it is Le Havre. So we have had this game on our shelf forever, I think. And it was only just this year that we managed to get it off the shelf and be like, let's play this. Like, this is everyone says that we're going to really enjoy this. And oh my goodness, it is so good. It's so satisfying. Again, it's an older title, 2008. And it's actually, because I think we got into the hobby around 2005. So yeah, that's going to come up to, oh my goodness, is that right?
Wow.
2005? Yeah.
You're about to hit 20 years in the modern board game world?
No, that's wrong. 2020, 2015,
okay,
because I believe, like the year after, so 2016 we went to Gen Con. That was our first Gen Con ever. And we would have been like in the hobby for, 10 years in the hobby.
Okay.
Yeah.
Still
and
nice.
I remember because it was like the release of Scythe, and it was like
Big
wild.
deal.
At Gen Con. It was like the Lorcana sort of crazy lines of the day. So this is Le Havre. But the Le Havre, Uwe Rosenberg, one of my favorite designers, and it's just so satisfying. You're just sort of moving your ship along, collecting all those resources, and then having this wild thing of upgrading these sort of ships and having, like, obviously feeding. He loves having the feed your workers, but this one is like you have a food cost that you have to spend at the end of every sort of round, and it increases. It gets that really what is it that does escalate quickly, as you were.
Nice.
But along the way, you're also you're constructing these buildings that will give you that's where like a lot of the different approaches and strategies, and let me try this, and what about if I go heavy on this, and I just it's one of those games that when we were playing it, it's like, this is so satisfying, this is so good. And it's still, even after all the modern board games that we played that have done all sorts of fancy things, like, this is still, it passes the test of time. It's like, this is just really solid, and every time it hits the table, it's like, this is a great time, no matter if you've never played it before. It's like, this is great.
I totally agree, and I am not a big Uwe Rosenberg fan.
Yeah, right.
I'm not a big farming person. Like, I like,
could farm all day, every day. That's my favorite theme, I think.
So I'm quite the opposite in that way. But when I did play Le Havre the first time, I was like, this is so cool. Like, I love that. Yeah, you're just moving your boats down.
Yeah.
And then you're building these different buildings. And so that is the one game, like, I liked Feast for Odin, but like,
that's my favorite. Yeah. I love that.
I just like don't get hooked enough to be like, but I'm still holding on to Le Havre.
Yeah.
So that is definitely, and there's an app too.
Yes, there is.
Really good.
I do remember I tried to play the app years ago, and it's sort of, what it's like, sometimes it's a bit clunky learning a board game app implementation.
Yes, but now the board game Yeah, you can go. I feel the same way with a lot of stuff, like learning a heavy game on like Board Game Arena.
Yeah,
like it's much easier to learn physically than once you are familiar with it, then play the digital implementation.
Agree.
Cool.
So that's Le Havre.
That is awesome. All right, so my second to last game is this is like I think we need a term for when I record a podcast with someone and someone tells me about something and they get me very excited about it and then I go and get it. But I think this particular game I just found out about like a little over a week ago when I recorded the previous episode with Alex from Board Game Co.
Oh, I love Alex,
he told me about a game that's been out since 2019, designed by Rob Davio and Eric Lang from CMON, called Cthulhu Death May Die. And Alex told me about a bunch of games. We were talking about like adventure games. And this one, right after I started doing some research, I was talking to some like local game friends. I'm like, hey, has anybody ever played this? I had multiple friends say, oh, I love it. We love it. And I was like, okay, I got to buy this. I want to play it like over the holidays.
Yeah.
And I just straight up went to Amazon and was like, cool, I'm getting this in 2 days. And the day it arrived, my friend Megan had stopped by. I was like, let's play this. We only got to play a partial game. The next day I was like, Matt, let's play this. He loved it. And then on Christmas Eve, we usually play Dead of Winter. And this year with our friends Cassie and Jake, we changed it up and we played Cthulhu Death May Die.
Wow.
And so this was like, I recorded whatever the last episode, I recorded with Alex on Wednesday and I had this game in my hands by Friday. And I have not stopped thinking about it. Like it is definitely like a dice chucker. So like people who don't want to like roll dice, you might not like this, but what I like about it is that it feels like what I love about Arkham Horror, the card game, in that you have this like, and Arkham Horror, the card game, is campaign based, right? So you play through scenarios, different campaign boxes. This is just different episodes that don't have to be played in order. And they have like a different kind of puzzle and a different experience.
Right.
And you mix an episode box with one of the elder ones.
Okay.
And you have 10 different characters, slightly asymmetric, very slightly.
Feels a bit Final Girl, like in that sort of comboing of like mixing the
episode and boss,
like the leader and the boss, like they're
I still haven't played Final Girl.
What?
I know, I know.
But
I know.
So that's so it's a similar kind of thing of like you pick a hero and then you mix it with a different like verse, like a different
story or scenario or
the villain,
character. Yeah, gotcha.
Yeah. Nice.
Yeah, so this one is it's just super fun. The other thing that I like about it, like last year I fell in love with Nemesis because I played that for the first time.
Yeah.
And Nemesis is a hair more complex.
Right.
Like this is, and I think according to BGG complexity, like Nemesis is like a 3.4 something, and this is, and Cthulhu Death May Die is a 2.4 something.
Okay, yeah.
But so it's like a lot easier to get in. It's very like a very clean design. I mean, Rob Davio and Eric Lang, hello, like I think they did a really good job of of just making a streamlined game. Like your character board has all the steps of your turn. There are no like official enemy turns. It's just like during your turn you have to draw a mythos card, and you know there's like cool items you can get. And I feel like the minis are awesome also, but I feel like each time I've played so far, we've been like on the verge of dying. Technically, the first game with Matt and I, we did die, but we let him.
When you say technically, is it because it was like, let's imagine?
Yes,
I rolled this, or like
it was pretty much like Matt got knocked out just before he was about to like kind of do the final attack on Cthulhu, so we were like, let's do your final attack. So technically. Our story was that they both died at the same time.
Nice. But then romantic in a tragic kind of way. I love it. I dig it. Yeah.
But then I played, so that was episode 1 with Matt, and then we played episode 3 with Cassie and Jake, and that was just cool because like the episodes are all so different, and you set up the different tiles. And in this case, we had like masked dancers, like masquerade dancers in a ballroom and we had to like get some of them to the waterfront. And we're dealing with all this stuff, and it's so challenging. And you'll yell at the dice. You have lots of opportunities to reroll, so you can yell at the dice again. But we got down to a scenario where only Cassie was alive. Like I had to sacrifice myself for something.
Oh, so it's like, not like if one character dies, then the whole campaign is lost. It's like you could have like a last person standing, sort of saving it for the entire team. Or
yes, but sort of, because there is if one character dies too early, because like basically in this game you're trying to disrupt a ritual,
right? Okay,
and so I think if Cthulhu or whoever your elder one that you're playing with hasn't been summoned to the board yet and somebody dies, that's game over.
Okay,
but as long as you've gotten to a certain stage, progress, then people can die. Yeah. And my friend Cassie ends up with like, oh my gosh, she ends up in a room with like 10 enemies, including the big boss. Yeah. And we're just like, this is over. Yeah. You know, everybody else died. What is she gonna do? She had some item that she could discard to make sure that like no enemies would attack her for one round. And so she lived to get her turn again and ended up making the kill happen. It was amazing. But it's like, that's the kind of thing that I hear other people saying who played this a lot. It's like, you're always so close to either dying or winning. Like it's a very tense kind of game, but it's fun because it's like it's a lot like lighter and easier to get into than Arkham Horror the card game, which I still love. But like if I'm gonna break this out with like a non-gamer or someone who doesn't play a lot of games, I would do this 100% over Arkham Horror the card game or Nemesis.
Yeah,
you know?
It does actually sound quite similar to Final Girl. Now, and again, there's a lot of, you know, the dice. Reason I haven't connected as much with Final Girl is because of all the dice chucking. And like, because there can be, obviously, whenever you're sort of chucking dice, there's a lot of luck potentially involved. And even if you try and like mitigate, it's sort of like a different, like, obviously it's a personal preference kind of thing. But obviously, because I was going to say, if you're enjoying this, like, I think you definitely need to try Final. But
I mean, I liked Hostage Negotiator.
Well, there you go. Well, this is Final Girl is meant to be I haven't played Hostage Negotiator, but it's meant to be like a refined version of Hostage Negotiator. So a more elevated and sophisticated and more kind of complex
I need to play it. Yeah. I know I suspect I'm going to like it because like even when I got into Hostage Negotiator, it was like multiple times of me hearing about it, mostly from Liz Davidson on Beyond Solitaire. But like I was just like, like that theme, whatever. Yeah. And then I got it one year and I was like, this is so cool. Yeah. Like it's so thematic. And it's very hard though with the dice, with that one at least.
It can be. Yeah, that was the thing that I really struggle with. And that's why it's never really, unfortunately, made it into any of my top solo lists. Gotcha. It's like I just can't, it's not something that I can do.
Yeah,
for a long time.
The dice are stressing you out or making you unhappy.
Yeah. And it just feels unfair because it's like, well, you know, it wasn't my skill, unless you consider it like rolling a skill, in which case then, I have no skill when it comes to that. I have the worst luck with dice rolling. But I guess that's the other thing. It sounds like you do enjoy more. It's a very similar experience, but obviously this is a solo experience. So you don't get to have that multiplayer co-oping and like something. Yeah, this is... I
think I would still like Final Girl a lot. And like the other thing is like, I think with me with the bad dice, it lends itself to a story. Like, I ran into that room and I tried to like throw this knife, but it bounced off and you like make up some story and you laugh about it. And then it feels really good when you do win after you have a bad string of luck. So anyway, I can't believe I just tried this game and I really, really like it. And I bought season 2. I'm like, there's a casino. There's a casino episode. Oh my gosh. I love it. I love it. And that it's episodes and not a campaign. But the last one that's my like just 0.5 that I'm just going to mention is a game that came out this year, a new version of it, but it's an older game from 1995. Similar to your Bottle Imp, this is Mew and More, the revised edition.
I haven't played that.
I played it once at BGG-Con. This is designed by Doris Mathos and Frank Nessel, who also made Frank's Zoo, if you ever played that. And the original Mew game, or Mew, came out in 1995. And there was like one or two other versions of it. And then Heidelberg Games just came out with this new revised edition in 2024 because it was like super out of print. The original one plays with 2 to 6 players, and it's a standard trick-taking game. But the hook is it's like, oh, you played Le Plateau, right?
Yes. You told me that.
Yeah. So Le Plateau, one of the things I love about it is that each round you might have a different partner or be on a different team.
Yes.
This game has that, and it has the way you decide who's going to be your partner. You do this like open bidding where you go around the table and you put cards on the table. And so you're revealing kind of what's in your hand. And then at some point, somebody's going to be the highest bidder, and they're going to be the person who's the crown. And then whoever was the second highest is the shield. So the shield leads like one team. The crown leads this other team.
Right. Okay.
And the shield team or the crown team needs to accumulate a certain number of points together because cards have different value points on them.
Okay.
So you're usually trying to like just win as many tricks as you can. Yeah. But meanwhile, the other side is trying to do the opposite. And like just like the open face card bidding system is like so cool. I loved it. Like when I played this. Yeah. And I also had the privilege of playing with a guy, I think his name is Sanchez, who this is like his favorite trick taking game. And he's like deep into the scene. And he's like, especially at 5 players, so I got to play with someone who like loves it.
Yeah, that's the best.
Yeah. And he taught, I'm pretty sure he taught the original way, because I think in the revised edition, there's like some changes they made, but you can play either way. But so this was a good segue into the actual 2024 releases, since this is a new version of an old game, and I loved it. So now we'll jump to our favorite 2024 releases. And I'm sure, Maggie, like me, like we haven't played every game, and we probably, some of these games we don't get to play a lot, but like for me, like this is the list, I think, of games. If I had to take 10 games with me in a bag for all of next year and play them, like that's kind of how I whittled down. Like no, that's not entirely true, but I tried my best. And how about you?
Well, so on our channel, we did 2 lists because there's so many games, obviously, that we do a small box or family friendly or lighter type games. And then we also do a separate list of our bigger box strategy Euro type games. And so that's the full list, and obviously both Amy and I have our full lists, and so there's quite a lot of games in that. What I did for this one is I kind of Frankenstein my 2 lists, and it's not a straight, like a direct, these were the top 5 of each. It's more of a combination of kind of similar to you. It's like, these are the ones that I'm most excited to talk to Candice about.
Yeah, I love it.
And it's a mix of the big box and the small box. And kind of, and like even the order is probably more that hierarchy of even just like now, like the ones that I'm still really kind of excited that I want to chat through, or that made an impression.
Yes.
Beyond just like, I feel like these were the most solid of each year. It's like these have kind of lasting impressions. Yeah.
Cool. Awesome. Let's just jump into it, and we'll start with your number 10.
So my number 10 is Windmill Valley, which is by Danny Garcia, and it was published by Board and Dice, who always do like really big kind of Euro experiences. And this is a kind of a lighter, much more approachable, even gateway friendly. Like I think this is something that I probably wouldn't bring complete newbies that are like, I can only have the capacity for a light card game, but people that are like, oh yeah, what's this board gaming thing? I'm into it.
Yeah.
And it's like, it's so colorful, and it's all about the sort of the tulip fields, and you have these 2 wheels that then you can upgrade, and then the water level that you can kind of control then determines how, your windmill, how many spins it does. And so where you end up having the combination of possible actions actions that you can take, and then those can be upgraded. And then, in a good Euro way, combination of different ways that you can get points. And it was just such an elegant and simple design that was just so satisfying. So yeah, I was really taken by this, and it plays within an hour. So it's like, wow, this is great. This is excellent. You get a good Euro strategy hit, super clever, and everything just sort of, works nicely. So that's Windmill Valley for me.
This is a testament to how many games come out and how hard it is to play everything, because I've heard nothing but great things about this. Like, I hear it's like such a fantastic mid-weight Euro game.
Yes.
And I haven't gotten around to playing it, but I know I need to.
Yeah. Very satisfying. Yeah.
Yeah. I need to try that one. So my number 10 is not a medium weight.
Oh boy, here we go.
Game.
Bring on the, what do you call it?
The heavy stuff?
Yeah. We need a crane. Bring on the crane. Yeah.
Yes. Beep, beep,
yeah.
beep. Railways of the Lost Atlas. This is an 18xx style game. I say style game because it's different and you build your own map. And what I loved about it, I don't own it yet. I need to pick this up. But I love that you build the map before you start. And when I played with my friend Ben, who loves 18xx games, we just told this story of this town we were building as we put all these map tiles out. Plus, the other thing is, like, I love how modular it is. I like that you can play a short game, a medium game, or a long game. So whatever, so it's flexible like that. But it has like just the muted colors. It looks different than any other 18xx game. Right. And I just think it's super cool that you build the map before you play.
That is cool. Nice. Yeah.
Yeah. So check it out. Railways of the Lost Atlas.
Excellent. So we're going to my number 9.
Yeah.
Oh, we are doing great with these ones. So we're like,
we're zipping.
We are zipping through these. My number 9 is Wild Gardens by Isaac Vega, and published by Rose Gauntlet. Now, I have to call out the artwork is by Alyssa Menold, because the artwork in this is so stunning and so gorgeous. The coziest possible theme. You're foraging for ingredients. So you were talking about like farming. It's like, this is kind of like a version of farming. You're kind of hand picking ingredients.
Flowers are okay with me. Flowers are okay.
You're also getting, like mushrooms, and you're getting essentially things that you can eat, because then you're going to be quite literally fulfilling recipes. So like, you're going to be then creating these recipes, cooking these recipes to feed to different friends and, people that you kind of meet along the way. And it's it's another one that's, the gameplay can be deceptive, because it's sort of a bit of worker placement, upgradable actions. You're moving along this map, and depending obviously where you are, you're foraging, but you have to be in certain places in order to cook. And you have to be in like a picnic area to cook and to serve. And so, and so the reason this made it into my list is like, it's a beautiful production, beautiful game, but it has this massive solo campaign book that takes you into like full narrative, and so all the cards, when you're playing multiplayer, they have these little thought bubbles with numbers on them, which have no impact in a multiplayer game, but they're all part of the scenarios for the solo campaign. And that is just, there's so much game in that, and so many fun stories. Cool. And then what I found is like, going back to the multiplayer game, playing with those characters, it's like you have this deeper relationship now, because you know their story, and it's like we've been on all these adventures together, and like, so that just delighted me to no end.
That's cool.
So it's just a gorgeous production, and it's just the coziest possible game. So that's Wild Gardens.
Wild Gardens. Yeah, I haven't played it, but I've seen it, and yes, the art is so vibrant and beautiful.
Yeah. It might be too light for you. I think you'll find it interesting in terms of the interactions of the worker placement, and the fact that you're having to sacrifice a worker at the end of each round. So the workers, like the workers themselves, that take how many steps the character can take. So then you're going, I'm leaving myself with fewer options as the rounds go on. Yeah. So it's got some interesting things, but it might be a bit lighter probably for,
I'd be down to play it, but I probably wouldn't get hooked in. But the solo campaign sounds cool, though. That sounds
so
really
cool. Yeah.
Awesome. Wild Gardens. Okay, my next game is another one that came up on the previous episode of the BGG podcast, Creel Manor. Creel Manor is a dungeon crawl card game, mostly designed to be played solo, but you can play with 1 to 3 players. It's by Tristan Hall and Hall or Nothing Productions. It is I guess it's like sort of you play campaigns, and a campaign is broken up into 5 adventures. Okay. And this is a game where you have a character, and then you have 3 action cards, and the action cards work like Civilization of New Dawn and Arc Nova, where the strength of the action depends on which slot it's in. Once you use it, it goes to the back and slide forward.
Conveyor belt sort of style. Yeah.
Yes, but you're getting different skill cards, and you're dealing with like kind of an onslaught of threats. Some things that aren't terribly bad and some things that are really bad, and you're basically trying to preserve your spirit. And which is your like health in this. Like when you lose spirit, you lose that scenario. But it's a very, I would say, not too heavy, but like a great solo experience. And in this, you can level up your character with different gears. And I said this before too, but it's the kind of game where I had such a hard time choosing which character I wanted to start with. Like they all look like the art is just stunning. And each character has a male and a female side. And yeah, and I'm like, I'm going to play it more than, I'm going to play more than one little campaign of this. So I'll be a different character next time. But it was really hard because there's also a bard, and me and music.
Yeah.
But yeah, so this is Creel Manor, the dungeon crawl card game.
Nice. That actually reminds me, there's a game coming up that I did a preview for, Storyfold Wildwoods, that is again a solo game. It sounds very similar because it also has that kind of conveyor belt type. And it's like and it's sort of light and shadow. So you're trying to illuminate a scene, and the whole thing is like this this really beautiful book. So it's like a storybook essentially that you're using as so that kind of reminded me. And it's also a solo. That's a solo only.
Cool.
Campaign.
Awesome.
So that's a future release. So we're going on to my number 8. My number 8 is the game Black Forest by Tito Lorenz and Uwe Rosenberg. I believe the publisher is Feverland Spiel. I got a review copy through Capstone Games, which I believe is a distributor. I don't know if they're like co-publishing or if they're just a distributor. But Black Forest is, I believe, my understanding of it is that originally it's what Glass Road, Uwe Rosenberg's Glass Road was meant to be, and then it sort of got, during
watered
development
down.
and stuff, kind of watered down. Although, like when I play this one, it doesn't feel like it's that much more complicated. I guess.
Gotcha.
Yeah. So it just feels like it's a different kind of version. So the way that I explain it with Black Forest is it's glass making. You're in the Black Forest, you're a glass maker, and you're trying to gain all these different resources using the same resource wheels that you see in Glass Road, which are quite interesting because as you're gaining resources, then automatically the finer resource, like these dials move, and it just increases the number of it automatically produces the finer resources, including glass. Yeah. So that's quite a cool little, mechanism, essentially when you're playing. But it feels like a combination of the Glass Road wheels with, if you've played something like Newsfjord, which is also by Uwe Rosenberg, and like that whole, like you've got your domain and you're, chopping off wood, which will create some space. You need the wood for things, but then you can build buildings and you have this whole range of buildings. So it's like, it's got that as well. So it's kind of like a 2-in-1. And so, I really enjoyed my time with it didn't enjoy it as much at 2 players, but it plays, I think it plays 1, 2, 4.
4?
And
I think so too.
Yeah. And so 3 players and 4 players was pretty good because there's a lot of you kind of moving around. It's worker placement instead. So you're kind of moving around these different villages and sort of traveling around instead of being car driven, which is what Glass Road is. So I much prefer that sort of worker placement mechanic. And so at 3 and 4 was really good. I really want to try it solo because Uwe Rosenberg has my favorite solo implementations, which is you don't have to facilitate any automas. You usually just get to play with multiple colors and you're blocking yourself. But it's a very clever spin that just means you get to just play the game. You're not like, oh, now the automa does this. It's like, no, you're all of the colors.
Let me look at this chart.
Yeah. You're all of the colors, and this is how you're blocking yourself in the way that you're playing it. So yeah, that is my number. And again, like I just really enjoyed it because it's a combination. I actually prefer this to Glass Road because I do enjoy the wheels, but I prefer the worker placement element, and I love New Spirit. So yeah.
All
so
right,
this has that buildings element. So that's Black Forest, my number 8.
Yeah, this one I do want to try at some point. I had a meeting with Capstone at PAX Unplugged, and I was like, I don't need to take this right now, but I do want to play it at some point. I actually quite liked Glass Road. I think mainly because it felt like a meaty experience in like hour and a half or less. Like I remember it being like really snappy, and that was like one of my favorite things about it. And then like after I learned it, I bought it. But then I never played it and I sold it.
Yeah, that can happen. So you get caught up in the fever. Actually, I think I figured out a word that we can use for when you got someone in your podcast. Yeah. And then they make you buy something. Yeah. It can be host hyping. So it's like there was a host hyping incident. You got the host hyped.
I like it. I like it. Host hyping incident. Yes.
Yeah. And then, Candice went off and spent a lot of money on more games that there's nowhere to store them. But, that's
another problem. Another problem. Awesome. My number 8 is Lord of the Rings Duel for Middle-earth. Yes. This is the new 2-player version re-implementation of Seven Wonders Duel from Antoine Bauza and Bruno Cathala and Repos Production. And I just, like, all these years that I've been playing games, since, like, late 2018, Seven Wonders Duel came on my radar very early. Like, I played it before I ever played regular Seven Wonders. And when I played regular Seven Wonders, I was very underwhelmed. Like, so I
Duels is excellent. It's just such an incredible product.
Exactly. Design. So it was like when I played Seven Wonders Duel first, and I was like, this is awesome. Like, I love the tension in this game. Oh, it's so good. And then when I played Seven Wonders, I was like, oh. But that's like, I know Seven Wonders is a lot of people love it a lot. I think just coming from learning Duel first, I'm like, I'm good with this version. But I love Lord of the Rings. And so this new version that's Lord of the Rings themed and like slightly revamped is just really, really cool. The production is awesome. And it takes an already fantastic game and makes it, I would say, even more fantastic because it's thematic. Now, ooh, Maggie, you're gonna have to try this one, or you don't like fantasy, right?
Well, yeah. So I think the Lord of the Rings IP is again one of those that I'm not like that. I don't connect with as much, even though we recently covered the trick-taking game, so Fellowship of the Ring, the trick-taking game, which we really, really enjoyed. But again,
it's so good,
and it's also super thematic. Like it's another way they've managed to make it really, really thematic. But yeah, it's one of those. It sounds like I didn't realize that they had tweaked the rules or the gameplay. So I do now want to try it just to see how they've tightened things. And also why it feels so thematic. I am intrigued.
Yes.
Yeah.
Got him.
I'm guest hyped now.
Yeah.
Guest hyped.
We have a guest hyping incident
on
the horizon.
On aisle 3. Guest hyping on aisle 3.
Yeah. I think you should try it. It's cool. I really like the changes that they did. And like one of the coolest things is there's this track that looks like almost like a clear ruler on a board. And it's representing the Fellowship moving forward with the ring. And then you could slide, if you're on the shadow side, you slide your Black Rider and you're trying to catch them. So it's just a really neat mechanism. And awesome.
Well, this is one of those, this is the advantage of being on this podcast. If anyone is listening that wants to teach me any of these games that I'm saying, let's do it. And, you're going to be at Dice Tower West.
There we go.
Perfect opportunity, yeah.
All of these games, Maggie,
all of them.
We're going to play.
Let's do it.
Cool. Let's go to your number 7.
My number 7 is the game The 6 of 8, which is a wonderful trick-taking game by Carol Legros, published by New Mill Industries. So The 6 of 8.
Oh, the Kings of...
the 6 Wives of Henry VIII.
It's so good. Okay.
Yeah, so it's such a clever, again, another really, really clever thematic trick-taking game where the whole thing with this game is played in teams. So it's like a 4-player there's a 3-player variant, but I think the ideal is that 4-player, two teams of 2 players.
Yeah.
And so what you're doing is the distribution of the cards, the suits represent the different queens, and the distribution of the cards is based on the length of the reign of the queens, but also there's this sort of token that progresses through the trump, which is also going to be based on the order and the length of the queen's reigns. And so then they add, you can kind of level up with these like spy cards, or then there's like the Henry VIII card, and then there's like a Church of England card that can annul a trick. So it's just so clever in the way that it's been implemented. So it's just so very, very nice game. 6 of 8. Yeah.
Yes, I've only played this once, and I think I didn't even remember that it was like a new release this year, but I really enjoyed it and played when my mom was in town, and so my mom enjoyed it. She likes partner card games and everything. Yeah, now I have a copy of it, and I do think it's really cute, clever, thematic.
Very clever,
Yeah, good call. All right, my number 7 is a slight cheat, because it's GMT coin/ICS games.
Okay.
Because it was hard. I'm bundling together A Jest of Robin Hood, which is the second volume of the Irregular Conflicts series, where one player is Robin Hood, the other player is playing against the sheriff. And you have this really cool hidden movement thing, and it's asymmetric, but it's light. And it gives you a framing for the coin games, it really does feel like a good first step if you are interested in playing coin games. But it's very thematic, and the asymmetry and hidden movement is really cool, and it's gorgeous. The board, the art, everything. This production is really gorgeous. So wait, have you played that?
We haven't, but I think we are waiting for a copy of this, and it's just still in transit, trying to make its way to Australia. But we're actually really keen to play it. We just haven't been able to yet.
I hope you like it. So that one's really good. And then I had to, of course, talk about Red Dust Rebellion. That's the game from Gerard Carmichael, 3-Minute Board Games YouTuber, but this is a bigger game. It's the first, your favorite theme here, the first non-historical coin game, and it's set in Mars, on Mars.
Space.
And
I was like, what? Is it farming? You're about to guess hype real hard.
No farming on this list, Maggie. No farming on this list.
Yeah, that's fair.
Unless you call farming trying to take over Mars.
No. I guess no, terraforming. I guess it's a version of farming, not quite. I do love terraforming Mars, even though that is in space.
Okay, there you go. Well, Red Dust Rebellion is so good, and it's if you like asymmetric factions and that work together so well. This is definitely heavier, especially than A Jest of Robin Hood. It's going to be a longer game, but they did so many really awesome things. As someone who's played, I think about 5 or 6 of the earlier coin games, this is really, really cool. They continue to get better at having player aids and better rules and learning tools, but it's just the way the different factions work together, where you sometimes have an alliance, you need to work together with someone, but it's competitive. Really good. And I love that, hopefully it'll bring more people into checking out other coin series games, in a similar way that Undaunted 2200 Callisto did for the Undaunted series. I still haven't played that one enough, but first impressions, we really loved it. And my partner Matt was he loved it, and he is a sci-fi person. Not a heavy gamer, but he got sucked into that game a lot. Nice. And I think I could probably get him to play Red Dust Rebellion as well. So that is super cool if you're up for something heavier. And then the last one in this little category is Vijayanagara, the Deccan Empires of Medieval India, 1290 to 1398. This is actually the first game before Jest of Robin Hood in the ICS series, the Regular Conflict series. And it takes place in medieval India, and you have 3 asymmetric factions, and it only takes about 90 minutes to play. It's a fantastic historical game. You can play with 1 to 3 players. I've only played it like at the full player count. I'm kind of curious to see how it goes solo and at 2 players, but I love that you can have this like coin feeling game in an hour and a half a weekday.
That's great.
I don't think I've ever, well, on TTS I play Cuba Libre on a weeknight. But like really like coin games are like weekend games.
It's a big investment of time and energy and brain power.
But all 3 of these games are awesome, and I'm like really excited to play them more. And that's Just of Robin Hood, Red Dust Rebellion, and Vijayanagara. All right, we're to number 6.
My number 6 is a game called Harmonies by Johan Benvenuto and published by Libelud. This game just kind of came out of nowhere, and it was just so gorgeous and so satisfying and so gateway friendly. And you're just, again, creating like these little ecosystems for different animals. But the whole thing is like you're drawing Azul style, like a set of 3 different little wooden tiles that are different types of, some of them might be water, so it becomes part of a river, or it might be part of a mountain, or it could be wood or whatnot. And so you're kind of creating this 3D ecosystem on your own little board. And then you're also attracting all these different animals that have a specific requirement of ecosystem to then you place a little cube on them. And so the whole thing is that synergies of like, okay, which animals and how many of them can I place in what combination? Because you can only have 1 cube per area, and then it's like, oh, but maybe this tree can actually double up as the ecosystem for this other thing. And so it's one of those games that you can play really, really lightly and just go, I'm just going to keep it really simple and just try and score for the basic long river and the basic mountain range, or I can go layers and layers, Calico style, where you're like, I'm going to get every layer of puzzle in this and then go, real hardcore. But in its beautiful production as well, all done very eco-friendly. That is Harmonies.
Now, did you get a chance to play this one solo?
I did, from memory, I did. And it was one of those that it's because the gameplay itself ends up being fairly abstract, even though it does kind of make sense. I love that it makes perfect sense what type of ecosystem every animal is attracted to.
Cool.
I found that as a puzzle, it's not necessarily the kind of puzzle that I gravitate towards solo. So it's like, I remember it being a really nice solo implementation, but it's not the type of game that I'd want to just like pull out of the shelf to play solo.
Gotcha.
Yeah, it's a great one for multiplayer, and everyone who plays it, it's like, this was so delightful.
Crowd pleaser.
It's so good. Yeah, solid crowd pleaser.
Yeah, I only played it once, and I remember like really liking the tactile experience of it, but I came away from game 1 like, that's okay. Like,
was it overhyped? It'd been overhyped.
It's just like
it is a lighter one.
It doesn't excite me like similar Cascade. I actually have never played Calico, but like Cascadia, I played it. I was like, okay, I see why it's popular. I see why people like it. But I did get sent home with a copy of Harmonies from PAX Unplugged.
Oh, yeah.
And so I'm going to revisit it. And the reason I was asking about solo is because I just recently saw someone posting about that. And that they liked playing it solo. So I was like, I didn't even know it had a solo mode.
It does,
I'm going to revisit it and play it some more, because I definitely have a lot of people that are lighter gamers and, might jive with that.
I think if you challenge yourself to go, wait a second, what is the best combination of optimizing all the animals? That's what Amy does, and that's why I think she loves it so much. Whereas I'm kind of probably in the middle. It's like, I'm going to try and optimize, but not stress about it too much.
Right.
It's like, what will be kind of
cool.
thing. But,
cool. All right. I'm going to revisit it. Harmonies. Cool. What is it? Host
hyping?
Host hyping.
I'd say that's like a host intriguing. I wouldn't call it hype yet. It's just like I'm intrigued.
Yep. The meter didn't fully peak on the incident track.
That's okay. Yeah.
All right. Who knows? Like 3 months from now, it could be like Harmonies. Oh my gosh.
I think you'll. I don't know if it'll shift, but I think you'll be like, okay, I can appreciate the layers of this.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. I'll keep you posted. All right. So that's Harmonies. My number 6 is a game that I barely scratched the surface of, but I'm so excited to play it more. And it's a game that I mentioned on the last episode also called React: The Arts of War. This is a game that I almost sort of randomly checked out at PAX Unplugged. And I ended up being like really pleasantly surprised. They gave me a review copy of the base game, but then I bought a bunch of playmats. And then after I played it twice, I ended up buying the deluxe edition of the game.
Oh, wow.
And it's this is from Brother Ming Games. It's a 1v1 grid-based card dueling game with these different artists who are basically trying to damage each other 3 times.
Mm-hmm.
But if you've ever played Summoner Wars, it's got like that kind of movement. But all the characters are so asymmetric and thematic. It is really cool. And also the way cards get played into this reaction chain and then they get resolved in reverse order is so cool and thinky. And, you know, like I also got the DJ character who I was so excited about because she has speakers, these summons of speakers. And the way she attacks is by positioning your speakers a certain way. You're like making music. Boom, hit you with the sound.
Sound boom people.
But
nice.
But every single character, like there's a tattooist, there's a sculptor who
cool.
drops these little clay tokens and then summons these like clay monsters. The deluxe version, it's really, really creative. And the deluxe version has these acrylic standees that are really cool and make it look even more immersive. You can also buy those separately. Like you don't have to get the deluxe edition of the game. But yeah, this and I think they were saying like Yu-Gi-Oh! And Magic the Gathering, like their stacking system. I've never played Yu-Gi-Oh! I played a little bit of Magic, but it's so good. Like it's so asymmetric, so thematic. So I
love those characters. Those characters sound really cool. Like that's very different. And
well, if I drive to Dice Tower West, I'll bring it. But and then like in this like 2-player TCG/LCG world, I have to mention honorable mentions: Pagan, Fate of Roanoke, and Ironwood.
Mm-hmm.
You would probably like either of those. I know you're not.
We've played Pagan, Fate of Roanoke, and it was interesting because I played it before I had played Netrunner, and then someone taught me Netrunner. I'm like, oh, this is interesting. They actually felt very similar to one another, except obviously theme wise, very different.
The asymmetry,
that asymmetry, and that I found them. Both the Netrunner and Pagan Fate of Roanoke intriguing. Like I enjoyed it, but again, I think it's that 1v1 head-to-head thing I tend to not enjoy as much. But it was excellent experiences for people that like that sort of game. That's
Ironwood also from Mind Clash is like really, really solid, asymmetric. You're playing cards. The components are awesome. The art is awesome. Clearly I love these kind of games. And so that was React: The Arts of War with bonus mentions of Ironwood and Pagan Fate of Roanoke. You know me.
You keep sneaking in multiples in one. Love it.
All right, go ahead. Your number 5.
My number 5 is the game Civolution by Stefan Feld, published by Deep Print Games. Now, I got a copy by Pegasus from Pegasus Spiel. I think they might. I don't know if it's a co-publish. It's sometimes hard to figure out when I'm like looking at the BGG. It's like, wait, who
actually published it?
But we did get a review copy from Pegasus. I think so. But we did get a review copy from Pegasus Spiel. And this was Amy's number 1 most anticipated game for the year, and it really kind of delivered. It's the heaviest, I think, Stefan Feld game that has been out there, and I was intrigued by the theme because you're like these beings in this sort of kind of celestial simulation, and you've got your test. This is your final test of like, okay, can you create, like, who can create the best civilization? And it's meant to be able to kind of go in all sorts of different ways. I think thematically that doesn't necessarily come across, at least not for me. The whole like, oh, would it go down this path? But there are multiple pathways to explore, and it's sort of like 4X without the fighting. Because the most that you can do is you can kind of push someone a little bit out of the territory so they don't necessarily leave the board, but then you are weakened. So it's not encouraging you to just go in and try and move people. But yeah, you are kind of moving around the board, you're exploring, you're generating resources, and the whole thing is like dice allocation, which is interesting because some people, and I had this experience the first couple of games, I was like, oh, this feels unfair because I don't like being reliant on the dice roll. But there are ways to mitigate, so you just have to do better planning to make sure that you have enough ways of mitigating against your dice rolls to then dice allocate for this sort of like combination of action. So it's like depending on the two dice number that you use, it sort of points to one type of action that you get to do. So yeah, so I actually find it's one of those games that I feel like I've only just scratched the surface. So we've played it multiple times. Obviously, I think we played it probably around 6 or 7 times. And the more I play it, the more I'm like, oh, okay, I want to try this next time. And it's one of those that just like keeps on giving, even
Getting
though
better.
I wouldn't say, it's like a super thematic experience, but you know, it's sort of like 4Xe style. What you're doing kind of makes sense. There's a lot of card play. It's got layers and layers of like wacky things that work really well.
I haven't tried it yet, Maggie.
Oh, I think you'll dig it. I think because it is that kind of, it's complex, and it's like when you finish, you're like, oh, and there was this whole other thing that I didn't even touch on. Okay, I'll do that next time, or I'll tackle that, you know. Yeah. So that's Civillution.
This was the game I announced as my most anticipated game for Spiel, but then I kind of like fell off a little when people were saying it takes an hour to teach, and I was okay.
I feel like it does, because there's so much going on. It's a long teach, but then it's not. The turns themselves are actually quite snappy. I
do want to try.
Yeah. So I think if you can get through the initial kind of teach when you're playing, it's fine. Yeah.
Okay. Okay. All right. That's good to know. Yeah, I was supposed to play it a couple of weeks ago, but I had a friend come to town, and I was like, no, we're not going to play this with 4 players.
No. Yeah, I think it plays also really well at 2 players. I haven't tried the solo, even though the solo looks like it's actually fairly good in that it's not a really onerous solo to implement. I haven't done it though.
Okay.
I still really enjoy the multiplayer experience, so I don't think it would be the type of game that I would play solo. Plays really well at 2, which is rare often for Euros. So Amy and I managed to get a whole heap of games played. I think probably my favorite player count would be 3, which is again like stock standard Euros.
Yeah,
be best of 3 often. But
totally cool. Civillution. I will play it in 2025. There, I just declared it.
Excellent.
My number 5 is a cooperative deduction game that I loved and can't wait to play more, Bomb Busters.
Oh,
this is also Pegasus Spiel.
Yeah,
and it's designed by Hisashi Hayashi, and you're playing different missions where you're working together to defuse a bomb. And I just really like the way the teamwork feels in this, and it's just such a fantastic design. I keep playing with new people, so we always start like towards the beginning of the missions, but I want to like play through it more, but
get a group to commit. We have it. We bought it at Gen Con, and then it was one of those that we just never got around to actually playing. So I can see it. Like I can see it on the corner of my eye. And we actually have it here. And it's like we've got some friends over and we keep sort of going, oh, maybe. And I think the reason it never really got to be played, or yet it hasn't been played, is because I think it was like minimum 3 players. And even at 3 players, you have to do some kind of modification, like a mini, and so we're like, oh, we'll wait until we have a bigger group. We'll wait, and then usually when we had a bigger group, it's like, no, we have all these other games that we need to play before the end of the year. So
I know that. But yeah, it's fantastic. Highly recommend checking it out, even if you two aren't like huge cooperative players.
But it's like we do tend to do well, or we enjoy games where there's hidden information from one another. It's the alpha gaming games that don't tend to do as well, where we're just like talking through endlessly.
Then you'll love it. Just as soon as we're done recording, get that together.
Excellent.
Awesome. What's your number 4? That was Bomb Busters.
4. Yeah. So my number 4 is the game Fairy Ring by Laurence Agrenier and Fabien Tanguy, which is published by Repo's production. And Fairy Ring was another surprise. Had no idea about this game. And it's just a gorgeous production where, again, you are everyone is playing down mushrooms into their own little field. And then as you're playing down a mushroom, it'll have it, and it's sort of simultaneously that people kind of revealed. But then there is a player order in terms of
resolving.
Well, yeah, because the mushroom that you play will usually have a number that detects you have a fairy that's moving around, jumping from mushroom to mushroom from your garden and then onto all the other people's gardens. And so when it lands on a mushroom on another person's garden, it'll activate their mushroom and give them points. And all the mushrooms kind of score differently. But if you have the same type of mushroom, it'll also score for one of your mushrooms of that type. And so it's got that sort of, it's competitive, but then you're also kind of trying to math out, okay, where do I want my fairy to land? And if someone plays a mushroom in their garden, it might then mess up with, like, because you can play the mushroom on top and make a taller mushroom, which is then a super powerful mushroom, or you can play them side by side. And then it's just a really inconvenient garden that you have to people get stuck going through all those different mushrooms. So it's just really interesting, super simple, extremely gateway friendly, gorgeous production, and just so satisfying. I remember the first time we played this, actually, we played it with Stella and Taryn from Meeple University. And we were like, and it was a prototype at the time. We were like, what is this? And Taryn learned it in 2 seconds because he's just one of those minds that can just
totally.
It's just so fast. And then we started playing and we're like, this is really good. We're like, what is this? Yeah. So it was because we were in a sort of demo thing. It was like after a con or something. Yeah. And so neither of we didn't have a copy of this. It just happened to be one there that they were kind of showcasing. And we're like, we need a copy of this game. I mean, we've now bought so many. It's like we keep buying them as presents for people. Because everyone that plays it is like, this was so good. Yeah.
Okay. All right, cool. Fairy ring.
Yeah, I need to try it. Again, light, but so satisfying, so clever, that the movement of those fairies and that cross activation.
I'll have to check it out. So my number 4, I'm pretty sure was pretty high up on Amy's list, is Huang.
Oh, yes.
Reiner Knizia reimplement. This is from Phalanx. It's a reimplementation of Yella and Yangtze, which was a reimplementation of Tyrants and Euphrates. I love abstract strategy games, and I love multiplayer abstract strategy games. And Huang is just beautiful. There's so much interesting player interaction. Like every time I've played it, there is the way the tiles come out is very different. I love the production. I love the Reiner Knizia scoring, where it's like that set collection of, hey, you whatever the amount of the color lowest points you have the least in, that's your score. So you better be strategic about how you're collecting those points. But you're like laying tiles, passing the bag around. It's not that rough of a teach. The player aids are really, really great. And it's just something I want to keep exploring. I loved Tigers and Euphrates when I played it one time. I think just one time. And I've never played Yellow and Yangtze, but like this one is really cool. It's on my 10 by 10 right now too, because I want to explore it even more. Yeah. And this one I did get a review copy from Phalanx because I did a how to play video for it.
Oh, nice.
So, but it's just, oh my gosh, it could have, depending on who you play it with, it could have like the tension of something like TI4, because it's like, you're going to place a tile and start a war here? Maggie? Are you going to do that?
But also there's so much of that banter of like, come on, we're both in this sort of state. We're like, come help me if there's
together.
a war.
Let's work together. Put that tile there.
Yeah, we've actually been playing that a lot this weekend, just because we've got friends over who'd like kind of dabble in board games. And it is, you're right, like it's such an easy teach and it's so easy to understand and get going. And I like, and even though I don't tend to like this sort of confrontational type games, or where you can have like war and that sort of stuff, because ultimately what you're trying to do is like have a good range of different resources, and those resources, once you gain them, they're not at stake, like you're not losing those.
Right.
I don't mind as much, because it's like, even if there's a war and my leaders get removed, that's fine. It's like,
you're
whatever,
not getting your points stolen from
exactly. You can kind of will rebuild and will. So I actually do find that I have a pretty good time playing this one, and it does get played a lot, so that's lucky for me.
Awesome. I ended up buying the playmat for it. Like it's a really nice neoprene mat, and I also got the wooden tokens because it comes with like the standees with the colored bases.
Yes,
but I was like, I want those wooden tokens that are printed.
Oh, nice. Yeah.
Yeah.
We have we also got a review copy from it. And it was one of those that I didn't realize, because we were talking to our friends about this, and we were talking about, René Knizia, it's probably the most prolific board game designer that there is out there. So many titles. And even when I was kind of looking, it's like, what else they may have played? That is like, this is the same designer. I think Titus and Euphrates from, I believe, is actually still the highest ranked Reiner Knizia game. So this is obviously a re-implementation of that. And what I liked about this one is like they actually had good consultation, cultural consultation that informed, because it's obviously all these sort of dynasties, Chinese dynasties, and every character is a different Chinese zodiac animal. Yeah. And so they actually, so that's good that it was really respectful. They got consultation, they got, so things are aligned and done well. So it's like, that's great. We love to see that. So,
love it. Yeah, it's a great production. And I definitely want to play it more and more. Yeah. Well, it's on my 10x10, so I'm going to be playing it more.
Yeah. We have the plastic minis. So we have the minis that are the sort of,
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So they're cool as well to have, but they do need some kind of painting of the minis themselves to be able to they're different animals, but it's still, because they're just gray at the top.
Yeah.
And then they have the hard to distinguish. Okay. Yeah,
get the wooden
yeah,
tokens.
That sounds cool. Nice.
Cool. All right. Number 3 for you.
My number 3 is the game Rock Hard 1977. So this is so Jackie Fox, designer, published by Devere. Jackie Fox being the basis or ex-basis of the band The Runaways from the 70s. So, a rocker who knows what they're talking about and creating a music-themed game. So this was it's a worker placement, and I just loved how incredibly thematic this ended up being, like in terms of, and it's not a heavy worker placement, which is probably like that was, like with Amy, for example, she didn't connect with it as much. It's like, mechanically, I don't feel like as intrigued or like interested, but I'm like, I just love
the
theme. And then also just like all these different locations. So at the end, like kind of going through like morning, afternoon, and nighttime, and there's all these different locations that you can end up with. And so all these different cards with different stories of, not stories, but like, this is what happened in this location.
Little excerpts and flavor.
And so that, I think, is that element that brought in so much richness to it for me. And then also the production was really, really nicely done. Like you have like all these, these amps are your player board, and you have all the dials for the amps and
the cash is cool.
Your stuff. Yeah, and the paper money, the paper cash is so cool. Like all of them are kind of individually, like, they'll have scribbles or different, coffee stains or whatever it is. It's just like, I just loved all those different details. So
nice touches.
Yeah, so even though mechanically it's not something that I'm like, oh my goodness, it's like, it was satisfying enough for me to just immerse myself in all the thematic richness that was in it.
Yeah, I'm telling you, we're gonna hit this music game revolution,
Let's do it. It's like, there can never be enough. Just like farming games. You can never have enough farming. No. You're like, hard, agree to disagree.
The musician designers, they're going to dilute the farming games by just pouring out so many music games.
I love both. So I'm on board. I'm on board with this.
Cool. Rock Hard,
so 1977.
Yeah. Awesome. All right. My number 3 is Dune: War for Arrakis. So this game is so cool if you're a fan of Dune or War of the Ring. It's basically an asymmetrical battle for Arrakis. It's very, very streamlined and smooth and very tense, and the asymmetry is very thematic. Like there's so many cool things about this game, and also there are different victory conditions, and great minis also. And they were like they made like different shades and different shape bases to make it easy to see them.
Nice.
But yeah, if you're a Dune fan, this game is like super fantastic. I love the card play. It's just really, really thematic and well done. And I actually, like, when I backed this, I remember hearing some like kind of negative buzz while it was on crowdfunding, and I'm like, oh well.
No. Yeah.
I'm like, it's a CMON game. Like, I'll be able to sell it if I don't like it, and I love it. It's
nice.
fantastic. Yeah.
Oh, so that's the best feeling. Yeah.
Yep, that's a Dune War for Arrakis. It does technically play to 4 players, I think, but I think it was mostly designed to be the 1v1 experience.
Okay. Nice.
Number
going
2.
to my number 2. My number 2 is actually a fairly kind of light, but again, fairly satisfying game, and it's Cafe Barras by Roberta Taylor, with art by Cindy Monroy from KTBG publisher. Yeah. And this is the 3rd installment in the, Creature Comforts, and then Maple Valley, and now Cafe Barras, where you are capybaras running a cafe. And so this is by far my favorite theme of all of them. This is extremely cozy as a theme, but it's also so simple. Like, to me, this is the most elegant of all the 3 designs, and the simplest. And I think that's why it's so elegant, because it's just cards. You have some tokens for money, but it's really just card driven. And it's just so it's just so simple, because all you're really doing is you have a hand of cards, and then you either, if you can pay for those cards to add those things into your cafe, so it becomes things that then you can serve, or you the cards are multi-use, so you can actually use them as customers to serve things too. So they have different things that they want, and then you're just kind of drawing back from a market of cards. And it sounds so simple, but it's just the artwork is so adorable. It's so thematic as well, in terms of like the different goals and objectives. There's like, I'm sort of from memory, there's like the writer, and so the goal for the writer is to end up with a cafe that serves at least 2 coffees and cookies, or like, so it's like, or there's like the napper that just wants to have at least 2 armchairs, because he wants to put them together to like sleep on. And it's just these cute little touches, and it's just a deck of cards, a really big deck of cards, but it's surprisingly tight in terms of the money, because it's like the money's the main thing that you're using to build up your thing. But it's just it was just a sweet spot for me. Cool. It's my favorite of all of the Roberta Taylor's designs so far. But and so cute, Cafe Barras.
Yeah, and Roberta is like the master of cozy games.
Yeah. It's my language. Like, cozy games is my love language.
Love it. Yeah, I've only played the sample pack of that game that she was handed out at PAX Unplugged in 2023.
Okay.
So I think I only played it once, 2-player, and I was like, this is cute.
For a Cafe Barras.
Yeah. But it was like a trimmed down version, like a promo pack or something. But that's cool. That's cool. Good to know.
So it actually only plays, I think it plays 2 to 4, but there is an official solo that's being developed, and it's very easy to hack a solo. So I kind of hacked my own solo, because I was one of those, like, when I ended up playing, I was like, I want to play this by myself. Like, I want to keep playing. I want to stay in this world. I want objectives, and I want to cool. So very easy to just do a solo version. Yeah.
Cool.
Fan made? That's Cafe Barras.
My number 2 is so cozy. It's like, it's going to be the coziest game on this list.
Is it war in space? Some kind of war?
Sort of. More Euro in space, but Gaia Project, the Lost Fleet expansion.
Nice.
And I was going to cheat and make expansions a honorable mention, but this game is too important and too special to me to not have it on the like actual real deal list. But yeah, this was like just a highly anticipated expansion for Gaia Project, introducing like 4 new factions and like a new map layout, and you have these ships from the Lost Fleet that are opening up different opportunities for you to have more actions and get more stuff, and it's just so good. And yeah, I don't know, like when you have a game you love a lot and then an expansion comes out and you're like, whoa, like they did this right, like this is fantastic, like it gives you a more, but like not too much, it's not unnecessary, it's like a good more, like the
right amount.
So good. So Do you and Amy like Gaia Project?
We have played it, I think, twice, and I don't know why. Like, it's like whenever we've played it, it's usually been at a con. And so like we'll play and be like, oh yeah, this is really interesting, but we never end up leaving going, oh, we need to keep playing that, or we need to play that again. And I don't quite know why. And I don't know if part of it is that whole thing of, you play it at a con, and it can be because it's a bigger type game, you're often distracted, and then there's a little bit kind of going on.
I know what it is, Maggie.
What is it? Is it space? Is it
It's not the space. It's because you haven't played it with me.
Oh,
so
that is
this is. I mean, we'll have to fix this.
Potentially, yes, that could be what it is. That is the magic ingredient. Yeah,
but yeah, I just love it. Like, I played it solo a bunch. I haven't played the expansion solo, but like Gaia Project solo.
Yeah,
it's just really good. Rocks my brain in the right way.
Nice.
All right, it's number one time.
Oh, my number one. So this is a game that I've been waiting for a long time because I had loved it from the moment I played the prototype, and it is Unconscious Mind by Laskas, Johnny Pack, Yoma, and Antonius X, published by Fantasia Games. And with art by Vincent Dutrait and Andrew Bosley, and I believe Yoma as well. But those two creating, so this is your contemporaries of Freud, and you're chasing him around Vienna, but you're also just you're trying to understand, like, or learn how to treat clients that have, mental health kind of afflictions. And so you're helping them, you're collecting different resources to help them interpret dreams, to then, that's what then leads to having catharsis moments where you actually physically release a clear or a kind of semi-translucent layer from the card that represents the clients, and in this that sort of the ink blot type thing. So it's sort of like that moment of like the person is sort of having those breakthroughs and those moments. And I just love the game. It's quite heavy as well in terms of, you have worker placement as a way of then getting these tiles to build up your board, which is its own little engine. And so there's just so much going on, but I just loved it. Loved it.
I need to play Unconscious Mind. Like,
have you not played it? Oh,
I have not played it yet, and it is like probably out of every like heavy Euro this year that I haven't had a chance to play. This would be the one that I would want to play most, I think, because I think that theme, the art, the just everything.
It was so well treated. Yeah, the production was really well done. They had consultation as well in terms of like psychological input, like psychologist input, I should say.
Yeah.
To make sure that everything was done in a
Tasteful.
Good, sensitive way. And it's just so nice. Like, I just love, and the production is so great as well. Like the even little ink bottle that you have that kind of moves on your own board, the cards. So you have the Andrew Bosley the artwork for all the cards are the dreams, so it's like those sort of surrealistic kind of landscapes, and then Vincent Dutrait does all the art for all the characters, so the people that are the people that you're kind of treating and your clients. Just such a great combination of things. So that is Unconscious Mind, my number one. Haven't played it solo yet, so because there wasn't a solo mode so the solo mode now it's come out with the final production, but there wasn't one at the time when I was playing the prototype and through that time.
Gotcha.
So I've yet to play the solo, which apparently is not a bad solo. It's not again not an onerous
something
one
you would seek out. Yeah. But it's nice to have if you want to get more familiar.
No, as in like it's not a difficult. It seems like it's not a difficult one to implement. Like, I hate complicated bots or complicated automas, and apparently it's fairly smooth to implement. So I'm looking forward to that. Yeah,
that's cool. Yeah. As a side note, have you ever played the Concordia Solitaria?
No, I haven't. I play Concordia multiplayer, but I haven't played the Solitaria.
You need to play it. It's so good, and it's so clever because like basically whatever card you choose to play, you know what the automa response is going to be. Right. Yeah. Like, so I loved it. I loved it. And anyways, sorry, I just played that for the first time like last month.
Ah, nice.
Super cool.
There you go.
Yeah.
That's cool.
Awesome. Well, now you've got me more excited to play Unconscious Mind.
Oh, that one. I will sit down with you and play it with you if we get a chance to. I love that game. Like, anytime I get a chance to play it. Yeah.
Awesome. Okay. I love it. My number one is probably not going to be like that big of a surprise, but it is Arcs.
Arcs.
Yes.
Yeah, nice.
Yeah. You know me. From Cole Worley and Leader Games, Arcs is, and this is like, I feel like there's so many new games that come out towards the end of the year that I didn't want to overlook things that came out earlier in the year, like Dune, War for Arrakis, and Arcs, because I've played Arcs more than probably anything on this list. And, it's just my jam. Like, I like Cole's like weird design. I like that it's a space opera with the clever card play, and that you can play it in like less than 2 hours. And, I love player interaction. And then the campaign box has so much. And
have you played the campaign? Or
a little bit. I'm
okay.
in the midst of one, but like I'm already like, wow, this is so cool.
Nice.
This is
we haven't had a chance to play the campaign yet, but we've played, and it was on Amy's. Actually, it was on both of our lists. Mine, sort of a bit lower down, because all of the things that you love, and so it's so funny that we're like, it's like that all of that player interaction. I'm like, no, I'm more of a multiplayer solitaire. Leave me alone to my farm. So you go play out in space and battle it out. I just want to farm. But I completely agree. Like, it's such a clever design, and I love the progression, because we covered the prototype at its earlier stages, and it's pretty much a completely different game now.
Yeah.
But having followed along with the evolution of it, and now that whole declaring the ambitions, that wasn't part of the prototype, and it's like that's the game now. Like, that's the core of the game, and it's so good. That's so good. Yeah,
that the players are driving like what is scoring.
So clever.
The art, Kyle Farron's art, so fantastic. Yes. So that's got to be my number one of the year.
Yeah, that makes sense. And they talk about it's trick taking. There's an element of trick taking. I would say it's trick taking scented. It's not really like
inspired.
Yeah.
I wouldn't really call it a trick taking.
But it's an interesting way as the core action playing mechanism. It was
totally
nice.
Agree. There are like a lot of games like Unconscious Mind that I didn't get a chance to play, and other games that I just didn't play enough. Like, I enjoyed SETI. I played Shackleton Base once. I liked it. I would need to play it more. But sometimes when it comes to like Euro games lately, I'm getting a little more picky.
Yeah.
About which ones. But like Unconscious Mind is definitely something I need to try. But there were so many great games this year, and I just can't pick them all.
Yeah, I'd say like SETI is one of the ones that we didn't get a chance to play, so that's still in the pending list because we haven't been able to get our hands on a copy yet. So hopefully, from next year we'll be able to play it and be like, okay, where would this have fit?
Yep.
And the other one is Agemonia. I don't know if that's how you pronounce it. Agemonia.
That's on my list to play too.
Yeah. So again, it's another one that we just didn't get a physical copy in time, and so we just haven't had a chance. But there is one that's coming. So we've got one that's coming. Haven't had a chance to play it. And some people are saying it's like, because I often talk about with games that have narratives, like, well, how good is the writing? And some people say, oh, the writing is excellent in this one where you're reading narrative.
Yeah. Hey, let me know when you get your copy. Maybe we'll start at the same time.
Yeah, maybe. Yeah. Sounds like a plan.
Yeah, that one is on my list. Yeah. A lot of different adventure games that I'm going to try to delve into. I loved Seaside, but just like didn't make the cut. Love The Gang, Wilmot's Warehouse, can cover Aqua Rove. That's really good. But can't play them all.
Oh, it's hard.
So better try again next year.
Yeah. More time in the new year. But more games too. So it's like it's just chasing your tail.
Totally. And I'll have to check out Fairy Ring, Unconscious Mind. Another one that I've just kind of recently popped on my radar is Leviathan Wilds, I think it was called.
Okay, yeah. I've seen it around. Haven't played it, Yeah,
I've been hearing good things about that, especially I think for solo maybe.
Okay.
But anyways, lots more games to play. I guess this episode we're recording in 2024, but it's going to drop in 2025. So I hope everyone has a awesome, happy new year and
filled with good new games and great gaming experiences. And yes, we'll see what this year has in store for all of us. Yeah.
Awesome.
Hopefully lots of good stuff.
Lots of good stuff. I'm putting it out into the universe right now.
Yes.
Well, thanks so much, Maggie, for joining me.
Thank you for having me.
I love your list, and I love that like we're the type of people that don't typically have crossovers.
Yeah. This was very like it was great because it's like they're so different.
Yeah.
And you've always been more like aligned with Amy's kind of stuff. So this is good. There's a little bit of everything here.
Totally.
For different folks. Yeah.
But I'm getting more into like the story driven, narrative driven adventure stuff.
Little by little.
Yeah.
Luring you in.
Yeah. And I guess like technically Elder Scrolls, the chip theory game didn't come out yet, but that's amazing also.
Nice.
So, anyways, okay, we could talk forever, so we will cut it.
Thank you again for having me.
Yes, anytime, and I'm looking forward to seeing you and Amy in Vegas.
Yay!
You've been listening to the Board Game Geek podcast, produced and edited by Candice Harris. Special thanks to Matt Fonda for editing and mixing our music. Be sure to visit us on the web at BoardGameGeek.com. You can also find us on YouTube, Twitter, Blue Sky, Instagram, Facebook, TikTok, and Twitch under Board Game Geek. You can reach us by email at podcast@BoardGameGeek.com.